Okay. Hey, Mr. Lakeshore guy is here, just saying hi, wish I could join. So is there audio now? Can you hear anything? Anything at all? Now I can hear you. Okay, perfect. So the sound is there. That's good. Maybe there was some sort of bad contact with the headphones. Okay, Mr. Rammers and Triangles is here. Steven Newman is here. Mr. Lakeshore guy, well, this will be, available afterwards as a regular video. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Let's see. It is streaming on locals, and the comments from locals are coming in. Okay, so that's good. Let's see. It should be on Rumble and YouTube as well. I'm using Rumble Studio to live stream, and because it's a new-ish service, I'm always double checking whether it's going where it's supposed to go and whether the comments that you post at this whatever platform that happens to be are getting through. So I see that the chat box from locals is getting through without any issues. Chat box from YouTube is coming through. And if anybody, and I see there are about 10 or so people on Rumble, please put something in the chat box. I want to make sure that the comments are coming through. This is also going on to Twitter. Well, X, formerly known as Twitter, but there is nobody there. Okay. All right. If anybody ends up watching this on X live, please put something in the comments. I don't know if Rumble Studio is pulling in the chat box from X. Maybe, maybe not. I have no clue. Okay. Since this time I'm not just running all around the country, I am in Texas. Texas is where my office is, and office is where I have supplies. So I took some of those supplies into my hotel room. Since I'm going to be talking about things that happen in Las Vegas, I need to do this in Las Vegas style. Cheers. Good stuff. Very nice Japanese whiskey. Okay. All right. Mr. Red-Headed Stepchild is here on Rumble, and so Rumble is pulling in the comments. Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay. So the purpose of this here live stream is to go over the last couple of days of a SHOT Show when I didn't have a chance to live stream, partly because I had an unexpectedly busy after SHOT schedule, and partly because my voice was pretty much non-existent at that stage. I use pictures to remind myself of what I saw, and I also have them open in the browser, so I will be able to post them on a screen if there's something worthwhile there. For the most part, not. I've sort of given up on trying to bring you this as news. That requires people who do this full time and who are always in a rush, want to be the first ones to deliver you something. That's not something I can easily do since I have a day job and family and things like that, but also because I like to sit and think about stuff. And as I sat and thought about it, I realized that the value that I bring you guys is not so much in being the first to report something, but in a sort of an educated opinion I provide on things. So with that in mind, ask questions, right? So this is, SHOT Show's not supposed to be a lecture. I'll be going through things as I go along, but if there is something that was not the last 2 days of SHOT Show, the first two, or unrelated, anything related to guns and optics, please ask questions, and I will address them as I see them pop up on the screen. Mr. Slavgans is going to join me in a couple of minutes. I like to have him on. It's always He's always good company, and he does have a different take on things, which I find valuable. And none of this was ever intended to be an echo chamber. Okay. All right. With that in mind, I am going to kind of start talking about things. Once Levgans is here, I'm gonna add him to the stream. And in the meantime, let's look at the pictures and see. Okay. One of the things I talk about with reasonable regularity. Oh, there we go. Mr. Everydays Maximum is here. So, what do you think Holosun's? Let's see. Can I put this on the screen? Not easy. Oh, but you see it on the screen. There you go. What do you think Holosun's entry with the DRS-TH and DRS-NV mean in a market that used to be the purview of things like Steiner CQT? So, what does it mean? Honestly, not a damn thing. For a variety of reasons, but primarily, okay, Mr. Slavgans is here. Let me add him on. He asked me the same question on Sunday, so he knows the answer. It means absolutely nothing. CQT was very expensive and arguably overpriced, right? So it was an expensive device, so it was the first one of its kind, and there will be less expensive ones out there. But CQT had an interesting advantage. It worked well. At least the ones I saw a few of them. They worked well. The fusion was done correctly. The red dot was good. The overlay was done well, etc. Holosun's entry is basically a product for tactical teamies and mall ninjas because it doesn't work well. And it doesn't work well because they don't seem to know how to do this. They make excellent illuminators, red dot sights, and stuff like that. But this first foray into thermal and night vision on their part is basically crap. If you want to play with it because you are a video game fan and you want something that looks cool and all that, yeah, absolutely. If you want something cheap to show to your friends, it's great. If you actually want to use it, I'd hold off. It's because what I saw at SHOT Show sort of shouldn't have been shown to people, right? I'd be embarrassed, basically. And Mr. The Marksman goes, that's what I expected you to say. And it's not because I'm critical, because I'm picky. It's because what they showed was crap, basically. I mean, it is what it is. All right, Mr. Slavgans, are you ready to hop on? He gives me a big thumbs up. Let's bring him on. Okay. I can't hear you. All right, I'll let him. Oh, there he is.
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. Long time no see. It's only been 2 days.
Okay. Well, it's only been 2 days for me. It's been 2 days since I saw your lovely face in the middle of the camera.
I know.
Okay, Mr.
But we were in the opposite corner. We were on opposite sides of this.
Well, yeah, because now I'm the host before you were the host.
I know.
So before, on Sunday, you were the host and I was comedic relief. Now I'm the host and you're the comedic relief.
Okay, then I'm going to throw out all my notes and start poking fun of you. So I'm sure you talked. I caught a little bit of this. I know you already bashed Holosun over the head, but tell us how you really feel.
I don't want to bash. I want to be very, very clear. I'm not bashing Holosun. I have a lot of respect for the company.
Yeah.
They do good things with the things they know how to do. Imaging is not one of those things.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Frederick Galibiowski is asking for CNH Precision 2 to 12 by 24. I actually have not seen that one. I had every intention to go and look. The configuration looks very weird, and I just ran out of time. I did at some point looked at configuration and looked at the picture of the scope. It was talked about on Sniper's Hide, and I am slightly confused by the existence of this rifle scope It is an odd configuration, and I can't quite figure out why they decided to bring it out. I just went on the CNH Precision website, and I am trying to see how much it costs. And I don't see it. So they have the same red dots as everybody else. I don't see the optic on there. So I have no idea.
So
The configuration is odd.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'd say this is like another one of those like crazy years of SHOT Show, and it's like you have like so many companies just completely expanding their product lines, coming out of left field. So I mean, you have, for example, like I mean, I'm sure you already talked about the year of the lever guns. How you have companies like
I haven't yet. I was just
Okay.
I was just bullshitting. We haven't
So
gotten that far yet.
it's like you have all of these products that are coming out from all these companies. You have like freaking Arkin is now making guns. CNH Precision makes first focal plane reticle rifle scopes. I mean, they make red dots.
So CNH is famous for the adapter plates. Since they make adapter plates, they decided to make red dots. Now there was some sort of a trainer who has an active Instagram channel who talked about this making 2 to 12 MPVO to their standards, and then I see this thing that basically is 2 to 12 with illumination and side focus, what looks like locking exposed turrets, squarely made in China, and with a 24 millimeter objective. Now, is it necessarily a bad idea? No, not necessarily. Is it a good idea? I am not clear. But once again, since I haven't had a chance to see this thing, I can't offer too much information.
So here's actually the interesting part. I am wondering. So if I recall correctly, I was trying to get to the CNH booth, but they were, I think they're owned by another conglomerate that has other companies as well. So I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking.
Oh yeah, there you go. So this is a collaboration with Sentinel Concepts. Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I mean, I think even beyond those, they were like they were in the same place as. So let's see, CNH. Because they're like, well, like they had like a prime spot on the show floor.
Okay, if anybody knows who owns CNH Precisions,
I'm looking.
So I found the link to the flyer for the optic, but it doesn't show what the reticle looks like. It just says the parallax is from near 10 yards to infinity.
So Genesis
30 millimeter tube.
Genesis Arms, Cloud Defense, Agency Arms, and CNH Precision.
Okay, of all of these, I only know CNH Arms. Never heard of the rest of them.
So Cloud Defense, they make a bunch of tactical Timmy lights.
Okay.
Very, very well known for that. Agency Arms makes. They have a machine shop. They make their own Gucci, well, polymer 80 type stuff, and like Gucci Glocks.
Okay.
And then Genesis Arms, I don't recall. Okay, that makes sense though, because I mean, like their booth was pretty big, so I guess they're trying to really expand.
Good for them. If you ask me for a guess, I'm not hugely interested in this scope. I wish I had looked at it at SHOT because this is not a scope I'll be looking to review. On the other hand, right, I do plan to review a Leopard Mark V 2 to 10 by 30, which in theory looks similar, but in practical terms, if you are working with a scope that goes up to 10 or 12 power, there is a very big difference between a 30 millimeter objective and a 24 millimeter objective, right? We are all thinking, oh, 30 millimeter, 24 millimeter, what's the difference, right? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what the difference is. In terms of the exit pupil, the difference is 25%, right? And in terms of the available light, the difference is 56%, right? Because available light goes by area of the objective. So I'm 12 power scope with a 24 millimeter objective is odd. And for general purpose use, probably not ideal. And keep in mind, I own a scope that is a 3 to 12 by 24. That sits on one of my air guns. It's from MTC Optics. And it's a nice enough scope all in all, but for general purpose use, If I am putting up with an objective that small, I want it to go down to 1 power. If it's not going down to 1 power, it's not clear to me why I have to deal with such a tiny objective.
Well,
maybe when some reviews come out and say that it's amazing, I'll change my mind and look at it. But otherwise, I'm afraid it's going to be until next.
So here's the question, and obviously one of the things we learned from you is that even though a 1 power seems like it would be something that would be easy to do, doing a good 1 power, it would be very, very difficult. So perhaps they just didn't even want to deal with the criticism. They wanted to have something that's going to be a little bit safer. So they just did a 2 to 12. I mean, like from the design perspective, would you think that that's a safer choice to go with rather than try to do something like a 1 to something, 1 to 10?
Yes, it's definitely much easier to design, but it doesn't mean it's worth making.
Neither are half the guns in our industry.
Probably more than half, and I'm equally enthusiastic about them, right?
Okay.
That's pretty much okay. There's a comment here in Russian. Let me just mention. Иван, спасибо за комментарий. Если честно, в следующий раз просто, если есть определенные специфичные вопросы, задавайте. А делать обзор именно на более старомодный прицел, если честно, вы не единственный, кто спрашиваете. Если будет спрос, пожалуйста. А так я не стремлюсь. Если вопросы есть какие-то специфичные, задавайте. Yes, I do speak Russian.
All right. He was just talking shit about people. Just kidding.
No, only about Mr. Slavguns.
Oh, stop it. You can't pick on your guests.
Of course I can. Why can't I pick on you?
Okay, that is very true.
Okay,
fine.
So there's another comment here. Since this was the year of the lever gun, which one would you go home with? The thought of the Henry Lever Action Supreme and 300 Blackout with a suppressor makes me smile. The thought of most of this makes me smile. I like lever guns a lot. And in the great state of New Mexico, they're trying to ban semi-autos. It's kind of going through the legislature now. Freaking communists. So the lever action, the Henry looked pretty good, but the first version of this lever gun for them is kind of a hunting look, although detachable magazine, but it's all wooden stock and all that. It's, to me, if I'm getting a lever gun, the 300 Blackout that takes AR mags, I probably want something that is a little bit more tactical, because I'll want to put some other gear on it. So in that regard, it was really interesting to see the one from Bond Arms. I think they did a very good job with it. And coming out a little bit later in the year, there will be the one from Aero Precision that I actually really liked. So the Stag is going to have the wooden stocked one, and Aero Precision is going to have the more tactical looking one. But almost all that we saw at SHOT were prototypes of all sorts. So Bond Arms was pretty mature. Henry actually looked pretty mature. Aero Precision, Stag, they looked good, but they didn't. The guys that who were showing them said, "Yeah, we're working on it, but it's going to be ready, toward Q3, Q4 of this year." So there's a comment here that I have to address. Mr. Big Brown Bear says, "Pick on someone your own size." So at SHOT Show, I did pick on you. That's one. That's two. Join me on my show. I'll be just as happy to pick on you. I do not. I don't discriminate by race, weight, size. I discriminate a little bit by gender. I don't pick on women all that much. I think it's just ungentlemanly.
Well, didn't I tell you today I identify as a woman?
You really want me to get into that? You have no idea how colorful my vocabulary is and how much of it I can bring out and how fast. People.
There's a lot of folks that can call you.
For those of you who don't know, Mr. Big Brown Bear is his name is Sean Houston. He's a very well known custom knife maker who does some of the best steel heat treats out there.
Nice.
I'm really impressed with his work. He does consulting for Spyderco. So if you were at SHOT Show, The large, big brown bear-looking dude at the Spyderco booth, that was him. So, I will admit that he can press a kettlebell heavier than the one I can press. Not by much, but he can. And just, hi, John. So
Hey,
John
John.
McCourt of Tracked Optics is here as well. And as far as pressing kettlebells, like I can press slab guns with one arm. And
Oh
Big
yeah,
Brown Bear
he
can
can.
still press a heavier kettlebell than I can. All right. Where was I? Okay, so another question here. ZCO also looks to be coming out with a 2 to 10 or 12 scope, and saw a lot of floating around. I saw the photo. I didn't see the actual scope. I think it looked in the photo, if it was a little blurry, it looked like it was a 2 to 10 straight tube, so probably 28 millimeter or 24 millimeter objective. I don't know anything about the Zico, the new potential Zico, so I have no clue. Okay. All right, so Mr. Northman. It feels to me SHOT Show 2024 was dull. I didn't see anything innovative I would like to buy. Maybe the new lab radar, but we're in the same province and they don't answer to emails. Yeah, lab radar is special in that way. So there's actually a good amount. It was a good amount of interesting stuff, and some of the most interesting stuff was shown to me in the prototype form behind closed doors. Unfortunately, I can't talk about that. But even without that, there was enough interesting things if you paid attention.
There was a ton of innovation. So I mean, Northman,
Yeah.
I love you. Thank you for being a channel fan as well. So a quick note on the lab radar thing. So keep in mind that the U.S. distributor of so the people who are my lab radar, they are actually US based and they license the technology from the Canadian company. So from the Canadian company actually doesn't support or do anything. And let's put it this way, my personal interactions with the US distributor have been quite cold. So the whole fact that you have the Garmin, you have the FX, you have the Shot Seeker, now you have the Caldwell, all of these are nice little humbling moments for them. So I'm hoping that they do become a little bit, hey, you know what, like you're not as dickwit as you think that you are. Now, as far as actually SHOT Show 2024, I think that there's a bunch of innovation. I think like we're actually starting to see a lot of stuff. I do think the lever gun movement is a lot of copycat stuff in light of how out of the ballpark resurgence we've seen between Henry and Ruger's Marlin. Then you had the POF that was launched last year. So you have a bunch of those. I mean, Ilya will talk about all the innovations in the electro-optics world. You have a lot of companies who started getting out of their shell a little bit. I mean, if you look at the prototypes that even Palmetto State Armory, so you have Taurus and Palmetto State Armory. Taurus, I didn't even realize they launched a bolt action rifle based on a 700.
Well, they didn't launch it. They've had it in Latin America for a long time. They just brought it to the US.
They brought it US.
At least 3-4 years, yeah.
Then you have Palmetto State Armory, which is now making, concept, mini SCARs, mini MP7s, kind of ish. You have their bolt guns as well. And then you have the most forward-thinking, completely awesome concept. So you have one optics company, I forgot who it was, but they decided to take the thermal optic and decided to put it and revamp it to a handgun. I mean, if that's not market moving and innovative, yes. Yes. So don't say it wasn't innovative.
Why do I begin to have the dull headache? Well, but I have a remedy.
Nice to go with you.
Okay. So let's take a brief detour then, right, before we get into making fun of Holosun a little bit more, because that was even worse than the one that Everyday Marksman was asking about. On the Doppler radars. So I used the one from FX, the True Ballistic. I started looking at them. At some point, I'll do the review. But from the digging that I've done so far, there are several things that really stood out. One of the things that stood out to me is all of the ones we have, and they work well. Even the lab radar, the new small one, works pretty well, I think. The original one is kind of a shit show to align. But the new Garmin Caldwell, I haven't seen in action, but I assume it's going to work most of their stuff. It's a big company; they do their homework. I think the new small lab radar is pretty easy to align. Shot Seeker, I heard, is not bad. All of them, to the best of my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, not Shot Seeker, Bullet Seeker.
Bullet Seeker, yep.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. All of them are looking at the velocity of the bullet comparatively close to the muzzle. Some within 70 yards, within 100 yards, most of them
except the new My Lab radar. So the new lab radar actually will take 3 measurements as the bullet goes down range.
Correct, but out to what distance?
Actually, I think they still said about 50 or 70 yards, something along those lines.
The FX True Ballistic takes 4 measurements at the distances you choose out to either 300 or 400 meters.
Yes.
And from that, it calculates the sort of a real-time that day BC. So it is essentially truing the BC for you.
Same thing as the regular full-size My Lab radar can do.
No, it's not. It doesn't look at it that far out. It's truing the velocity, but for a much shorter range, and it's a lot less.
Up to 100 yards.
Correct, but the FX is either 300 or 400 meters. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. So I haven't had hands-on yet. I haven't had hands-on time with
that. So I have one. I've been using it. So
perfect. Yeah, I have the regular My Lab radar. I have a bunch of others. I'm getting my hands on the Garmin. The other basically distinct difference between them is that the lab radar unit is actually recoil rated. The Garmin one, they are explicitly saying right now that in instruction manuals and everything, don't mount it to the gun because they haven't tested it for recoil. And I mean, like, they still have the warranty on it. So the question is, okay, how can they actually tell? But they are explicitly saying don't mount it to the gun. They're not going to warranty that type of use.
Correct. FX is not designed. It's a larger unit. It's not designed to be on a gun, but it's easy to align, very fast to set up, works great with data management and everything. And what I found is that these real-time BC that they provide, it's not the same BC as bullet manufacturers produce, which they do it at sea level and all that. But for actually shooting on that day, FX True BC is a better thing to use in a model than the regular one. So
yeah, no, the FX, I mean, like, I love that. So when we did the video with the FX last year, I love that thing. I mean, like, I'm like, okay, you know what? This is what a lab radar is supposed to be. My only concern, I will say this. So obviously FX and that entire organization with FX Americas, they were obviously going through their issues. My only concern with it now is, and kind of, okay, you have, so the behemoths now, you have, like, people dealt with lab radar because it was basically the only game in town for what it was supposed to be as a Doppler radar. You had Bullet Seeker, and I mean, like, honestly, like, that was a complete sideshow of a mess when Bullet Seeker. Shot Seeker, I think, is the technology. Bullet Seeker. I mean, that's primarily a US one, but I know that the app was having issues with that still. So when the FX came out, okay, like, they have, like, all the support, you have everything, this is going to be fantastic. But they're still a relatively small company, and now you have Garmin, you have Caldwell. These guys are going to be putting the pressures on. But for example, like, whether the item is the best item or not, if you're thinking in terms of warranty and support and who's still going to be able to support the product 4, 5, 6 years from now, I don't have any qualms about purchasing a Garmin product or purchasing a Caldwell product. They will be there. I mean, Caldwell might not support it in terms of doing updates or software, things like that. But I do know that, hey, if something happens with it, they'll just send out a replacement because they're a bigger company. The FX one, it might be a much better unit, but who's going to support it? Is it going to be the US people? Are you going to be forced to send it overseas? Things like that.
So FX has an importer who imports stuff. And FX has been making very high-end air guns for quite a long time.
Yes.
And by the way, one of the new air guns was my standout product of the show. And I have an FX air gun. I haven't had any problems with it. I haven't had a chance to use their customer service. But I do know of many, many people who shoot them, and I've never heard a bad word about their customer support.
Perfect. Okay.
So I don't have and they are a good-sized company.
FX Europe, not FX US.
FX US doesn't exist anymore.
Anymore, and that's the
They
thing.
have moved to a different importer. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Because FX USA guy was scamming them, right?
Okay.
So the current importer, to the best of my knowledge, is going to be providing
Okay.
support. I'm not particularly concerned about it. And the FX is the money behind Element Optics.
Correct.
So I don't know who's going to be providing support, FX current importer or Element Optics, whoever else, or if it's going to be FX Sweden. But honestly, given what I know about the company, I'd be shocked if there are any support issues.
Or let's say, for example, like software updates, things like that.
I did a software update on my FX.
Well, I mean, so for example, like if there's bugs, if there's other type of stuff, like are we going to keep supporting it? Are we going to keep updating it years from now?
Nobody knows, but they've been around for a while, right? My assumption is yes.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Look, with all of the electronics, you have to keep in mind, if you think that Garmin is going to do a lot of support for it past the 1-year warranty or whatever it is, good luck.
But we have a track
Garmin
record. But here's the thing, though. I mean, like with Garmin, and we already have almost like a little bit of a track record on there because I mean, like it's a bigger company. It's like they
Correct,
are
but for the electronics, the warranty is usually about a year.
correct. No. So
And
yeah,
if you think you're going to get any support from Garmin after that, good luck with that.
Right. No. So you're absolutely right, and I'm kind of conflating the two issues: the
Yes.
actual physical support of the warranty. Let's say, for example, the thing gets shot or something like that, or it just stops working, versus the ongoing software updates, things like that. And as a Labrador owner, I mean, I got mine 4 years ago. There's still a bunch of stuff on those that is quirked out. The thing just restarts in the middle of nowhere. The app, the Bluetooth connection on the app half the time doesn't even work, to the point that I don't even use the app anymore. And it only took them 6 years to make a semi-usable app. So I'm coming in from that perspective. And Garmin has a lot more development money. I know the guys at Caldwell. It's like they have more money to throw at things. I definitely think their time is going to be split. So, and from my own experience, and it might be a little bit jaded, when I was having the conversation at the FX USA booth where we had the GRS, and they just kind of like, they had the Element in the same booth. Yeah, last year when they brought out that product, they were like, okay, so like whose product is this going to be? And we're like, okay, well, that's actually to be decided. So they didn't know whether it was going to be branded under FX Europe, FX USA, whether it's going to be its own product, like who the subsidiary
So,
on
okay,
is.
so you're talking about FX USA guy who was scamming FX and is being sued. And everything he touched was kind of turning to shit.
Okay.
So it took a little time to unravel. Once again, I don't know how long they will support it with updates, but I got it 6-7 months ago.
Nice.
It worked from the start. It's always connected.
Yeah.
There were no bugs that I was aware of.
That's awesome.
They issued some sort of a new firmware.
Okay.
Updating it was not as user-friendly as some other things, but also the only change to the new firmware was one more different ballistic model I was curious about.
Okay.
It took me a solid 7 minutes to figure out how to update it. I updated it and it still works and it always connects. It's giving me exactly 0 issues.
Now, are we using, do you know if we're using their own developers for that? Do we know if we're using their own developers?
How mature it is remains to be seen. They will, I have no clue. I think they're partnering with some company from Finland to do it.
Cool.
That's my best guess.
What's the price point on that?
But they're expensive. It's about $1,000.
Okay.
I think.
So 2 Garmin Zeros or a Zero and a Labrador. Yeah. Actually, no, Labrador is about the same.
It depends on what you're looking to do, right?
Yeah.
For my purposes, for what I've seen so far, I'm not changing because it's giving me real time.
Oh, absolutely.
BC. That's absolutely invaluable for shooting.
Correct.
Long range.
And it's giving you the BC right on the app. You don't have to calculate it yourself.
No. It spits everything out to me. And when I've done shooting, I tell the app to email me the data if I want it elsewhere. And hooks up to my email and sends it out, logs all of it, gives me data per shot, calculates, measures for velocity, but calculates data out to wherever you want with like 20-meter intervals. It's spectacular amount of data.
Yeah. So basically, so the Labrador does do all of that stuff, except it doesn't actually calculate the BC. It gives you it gives you all the data points. Like it'll actually it'll give you all of the data points that you'd want on the Excel spreadsheet when you download the link. but it doesn't actually calculate the BC for you. You have to calculate the BC yourself, but all of the data is actually there. So the fact that, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it seems like it's a really good product. I'll definitely have to take a look at it again. And
Anyhow,
before
we have a
it
bunch
gets
of
buried,
questions.
John, yes, I can make it to the Great Outdoor Show. I'm not sure if I was planning on going to it or not, but I can definitely go there if you're going.
All right. Okay. So we spent a lot of time on the PC. I just wanted to explain why I'm using the FX one. It's not because of institutional inertia. I can use anything I damn well please, but it gives me something the other ones don't seem to.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. B. Warren 5, did you have a chance to look through the Athlon binos with the reticle? Yes, the 12 power bino. About $500 or just under. It actually looked very good. I am going to get one for review and I'll spend some time with it. Mr. Robbie Razor, initial impressions of the Colors K328i and how it compares to the ZCO. Initial impressions, the eyepiece looked very good and very wide field of view was quite impressive. Looked much better than the previous color scopes that I'm not a big fan of. How it compares to Zico, I have no clue. By looking at the chart show, you can't really tell. But colors is generally look good. The colors did a little bit. I don't know why they decided to put a 50mm objective on it. Made no sense. But mechanically, it looked very good. The new eyepiece is very impressive, but it is ginormous. It does, however, give the new colors some sort of a competitive advantage, because in the current market, all the other color scopes that I can think of, I can't figure out why you'd buy one. With this one, there is something clearly different. That's something nobody else has. So that will make a significant difference. And they spent quite a long time on that eyepiece, and I think they did a very good job. Okay. Mr. Emmers and Twangers, what was each of your standout product of the show? Mr. Slavguns, you want to start? Standout product of the show. One. You have to pick one.
I don't know. There's just too much. So I'm kind of going for the business cards and stuff. I would say like a very quick list, and I'm not going to go
not
too
list,
much.
One.
Okay.
Pick one.
If I had to pick one, it's not a brand new product. It was released a little bit earlier, but I had a chance to look at it. Rise Armament, they make the iconic trigger, which is almost like a 2-stage precision rifle trigger. I really enjoy that, shooting that. And then 22 arc shot it for the first time.
You do have connection issues because you're kind of breaking up a little bit, or is it just me?
I don't know. Guys, you'll ask the audience who's breaking up. Could be you, could be me. I don't have any issues seeing you. It could be Rumble Studio.
Okay. So, gentlemen, please put something in the chat box. Is Mr. Slavgan's occasionally like voice getting corrupted, or is it my shitty internet connection at the hotel?
Yeah, so Wilford said Slav is fine for me.
Okay, so maybe it's my connection. Okay, so standout product of the show. That is a very, very tough one.
See? And you made me pick one.
Of course I did.
I know. It's the Holosun thermal pistol sight.
I'm going to
ban me.
Send you to Big Brown Bear for a re-education camp in Oregon.
I don't need to. Hey, if you're going to send me to re-education camp, send me to China or send me back to Soviet Russia. I don't want to go to some cold
I am a little bit mean. I'm not sadistic. Okay, so if I had to pick one, I would say, oh, fuck me. I would say it is Burris Veracity PH 2.5 to 12 by 42.
Not the Eliminator?
So, Eliminator was really cool. The 2.5 to 12 by 42 is something else. So because it's barely over $1,000.
Okay.
And because it has a reticle that really works well in low light, and because at that price it has a heads-up display, so you never have to look away from the scope. You can use it on a hunting rifle. You can use it on the precision AR. It's comparatively lightweight. In terms of technology, there was nothing that revolutionary at SHOT Show. So one of the things I'm looking at is the practical integration of electro-optical things. into a price range that most people can actually afford.
Okay.
So
you can't say there wasn't anything revolutionary when there was the Holosun thermal pistol sight. It doesn't mean it works.
Okay, revolutionary. That the way the revolution was not a clear demonstration that they can't tell the ass from an elbow. That's the only revolutionary part about that thing, was that bad ideas are contagious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's a question for you on the Veracity PH. So the Veracity PH obviously came out last year, and I thought it was a terrific product for hunters. Now, you brought it up this year as the Veracity PH, the 2.5 to 14. So that product in particular, 2.5 to 12. So that product in that scope in particular, or the entire line, and if that scope in particular, why that scope now? Why that scope, and why not the line? And why not last year?
So because they did something that is a little bit brave. So they introduced 2 new Veracity PH scopes, 2.5 to 12 by 42 and 3 to 15 by 44. And I'm trying to see if they already have it on their website or not. And no, they don't have it on the website yet, because I wanted. Oh no, they do. So nice. I'm going to show you the reticle. Hold on. There you go.
By the way, guys, I knew it was Holosun. I was just being facetious.
Yeah. No, that's not the one.
And I do have a video on it coming out very soon.
Yeah. Okay. Burris doesn't have it on the website yet. I'll come back and revisit it when the time comes. That one, because it did a reticle that goes against the norm, yet works very well for hunting.
Nice.
It has a very thick center post on the bottom. There is no tree, small gap around it, and then the wind hole marks. It is a scope dedicated. If you're going at distance, you are dialing elevation turret, and the heads-up display shows you what the elevation turret is doing in terms of either the MOA, in the future also Meridian, or in terms of the distance that you've actually dialed. And they did it in a comparatively compact scope. The reticle, the way they design it, will work at 2.5 exceedingly well, with or without illumination. Right? It's a very purpose-built design, but everything in that scope actually makes sense. Now, it may not be ideal for everyone, but usually what different companies do, they throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they're trying to please every possible market audience, and then they fuck it up and please no one. Nice. With this scope, they were actually thinking. They had a purpose, and they made something that I think, when I look at that scope, I'm thinking, okay, what would I do differently if I was them designing a scope for this purpose? Okay, I'd do it in Meridian. Short of that, it's good. I mean, and that's probably damn near the first time I can say that about any rifle scope.
Nice.
In that regard, the new Revic, the Reticle 525, is also along those same lines, except it's almost $4,000. So, Revic. Revic is a sister brand for Gunworks.
Okay.
But Revic is $3,900, and it's more sophisticated, does a lot of other things and all that, right? But the freaking Veracity PH is $1,100.
Yeah. Now it's
okay.
It's an awesome product. I mean, like it's a very cool product. It's very exciting as a gun owner, I think, especially for hunters. I think it's a fantastic product. And I know we had a deeper discussion on this.
Amazed at how well it will work as a DMR scope.
Yeah.
The moment Burris makes it in Meridian, it becomes arguably the best precision AR scope in the market.
But then wouldn't that necessarily be more like a Steiner product rather than a Burris?
A Burris does tactical stuff too. So I hope they will. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different conversation.
It's a slightly different way of shooting at distance. Correct. Burris Steiner marketing is a different conversation. It is a slightly different way of doing this. And I like one of the things I like in this scope is Burris committed to an idea and did it well.
Nice.
I like this kind of dedication. I think that should be encouraged.
Very nice.
All right, I'm just going back to the comments because while we were arguing about chronographs, sometimes it takes me a little while to convince Mr. Slavguns that he's wrong and I'm right. I mean, he knows, but he still argues. Mark 82. If 1X presents such design limitations on low power
I'm actually
variables.
going to be right back. My dog is going
Of
nuts
course.
up there. So
Okay, go for it. You know the answer to this one. If 1X presents such design limitations on low power variables, why don't we just not make 1X on the low end? 1.25 or 1.5 on the low end is very usable for close range engagement. See Swaro Cobra. Yes, it is very usable, but it's not as fast as true 1X with an appropriate reticle. 1X is a little bit of a challenge, not that hard. Plenty of companies are managing to pull it off. The big challenge with the True 1X, so going to very low magnification, is with trying to make a largish objective out of it. That is extremely hard to do. Okay, I am going to switch to this until he's back. What was that? Yeah, it's if you are doing a low power variable, it should go to 1X. If you're not doing a low power variable, yeah, you can bump up the low end magnification, call it a medium power variable, and bump up the objective for better use in high magnifications. Mr. Big Brown Bear, were there any new innovative LPVOs under 2000 for the 16-inch 56 defense rifles that look best for 2024? So under 2000, so on the mid-high end side, really not that much. On the lower end side, there were several new things from Swamp Fox. These are 350, 400-ish LPVOs. Thankfully, quite a few companies like Primary Arms and Swamp Fox, several others are beginning to do more and more low power variables with second focal plane reticles and fiber illuminated. The clever thing that Swamp Fox is doing is almost everyone is only doing red illumination with a fiber illuminated dot. There's one exception is Trigicon. What Swamp Fox is doing, they're gonna offer red, green, amber, and blue dots. Okay, he is back. I'm gonna add him back on. So I'm saying the Swamp Fox has the Tomahawk Gen 2 LPVO that has a fiber illuminated reticle with 4 colors: red, green, amber, and blue.
Ooh, I wonder how those are.
And amber is going to work well for people with astigmatism. If you're red-green colorblind, use blue. You'll be fine. I don't know why my camera keeps on changing color balance.
That's because That's because you have it on automatic mode and it changes the exposure based on the light reflection off of your bald head.
Yeah, it's a built-in webcam on my computer. Doesn't exactly give me a ton of manual controls. What was I? And I sit in a hotel room with very uncontrolled light.
Amber versus red. Is there that much of a difference?
Quite significant, actually. So, for example, with reflex sights, if you have astigmatism, amber will, for most people, will look cleaner to you.
Wow.
So, but anyhow, so that's actually innovative and that's comparatively inexpensive. The question is that are there any new and interesting 100 2000? There's not too many that were at SHOT Show. And if you're looking for, but if you are not looking for longer range stuff, if you're primarily planning to stay within the what's called a maximum point blank distance, MPBR, maximum point blank range, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Your best bet is something with a second focal plane and fiber illuminated reticle. And one of the mid to high end options that was introduced at SHOT Show was the version of Primary Arms PLX Compact 1 to 8 by 24 that was originally front focal plane, etc. This time they made a second focal plane version. That's a Japanese scope. It's in the $1,600 range. And that one will have this day bright fiber illuminated dot. That particular scope is very compact. It's about, I think, 9 inches long, 17 ounces in weight. It has one of the best eyepieces in the market, ultra flat field of view and everything. So if you want to be under 2000 for a home defense type rifle, that is not a DMR rifle, but you're going to be primarily using inside of 300 yards. That basically gives you the performance of a Razor Gen 2.
Wow.
In a package that's shorter and lighter. It's a very nice eyepiece. So much so that while that particular style scope is not always my thing, I'm actually going to get one and review it. I thought that was quite impressive. And Mr. Big Brown Bear, if that's something you're interested in, once I look at it, before you spend the money, you are welcome to come visit me. We'll go shoot a pig, and you can play with any of the scopes I currently have in for review. Okay. So that's probably for defensive rifles. That's probably what I'd be looking at. Mr. Link Chen makes a wild guess that it's Holosun that did that other particularly stupid thing on a handgun. If anybody, so for those of you who haven't heard my F-bomb field take on that, the brilliant thinkers at Holosun decided to put a thermal camera on the dust cover of a handgun and have it send data wirelessly to a small reflex sights on top of the
You're
slide.
just jealous you didn't think of it.
I did think of it quite a few years ago. Thought it was a stupid idea back then. And then it's supposed to be projecting into a red dot sight and fused with a proper red dot. That worked even worse than their rifle fusion sights. And that's not such an easy thing to do. Falling out of a basement takes true skill and innovation.
Okay. Now, in full fairness, they did say that this is a concept. We're not promising that this is an actual product or anything. This is just playing around with and seeing if it's feasible and stuff. Although when they decided originally, they might have really thought, hey, wow, we have this really, really cool product. And then you had some people tell them how stupid of a thing it was. And then they say, oh, it's just a concept now. It's possible too.
I don't know. I'm not going to make any guesses on the subject. I will say, in their defense, I like it when companies experiment with unusual ideas. I probably wouldn't necessarily bring some of them out to the market. I'm not bothered by the fact that they tried it. I'm bothered by the fact that they tried it and thought that this was worth showing people.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty fucking stupid.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. So obviously that concept has a lot of technical limitations as it is. But the question is, do you think that there's a practical purpose for that they're trying to accomplish? And if they fixed it technically, that it would potentially have a use case. So I guess, in your opinion, is it an issue with the implementation, or is it an issue with the entire concept?
So the fusion of thermal with the reflex sights is a good idea, in principle. In practice, it really depends on how you do it. And they did not do it well, or in any sort of a way that is conceptually intelligent. Okay.
Cool.
I mean, offhand, I can think of at least 3 ways to do it better and put it in the handgun.
Nice.
Okay. Not 2. The third one is stupid. Yeah, 2. Okay. So this Russian gentleman is suggesting that he's going to put together a Russian-speaking audience. Иван Спиридонов, пожалуйста, если вы соберете достаточно много желающих, я сделаю стрим на русском языке без проблем.
Отлично. С моим
Господин Славганс может ко мне присоединиться, у него тоже с русским нормально.
Так себе. Мне всего было 9 лет, когда сюда переехал. John, actually, before we skip over the comment, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
So I know John was feeling a little bit under
so John
the
Lockhart
weather.
had COVID. That's why he didn't make it to SHOT Show. What I just said in Russian is that, once again, they're trying to collect a Russian-speaking audience, and I said if there's enough interest, I'll do a live stream in Russian. It's not hard. Northman, DSI bolt concept was something appealing, probably just for me. What is a DSI bolt concept?
So Darkstorm Industries, they have... I don't remember if you did a video. Yes, I did. I did a short on it. I didn't do a full video. So Darkstorm Industries, they started out and they founded themselves as a 50-state compliant gun company. So no matter where you are, they would have a concept. So you have other companies that tried the pump action ARs. You have Top Precision, which had the bolt action ARs. DSI had a concept in their booth where they made their gun a bolt action with a little bit of an assist. They did it in 6mm arc after discussing it with me ahead of time. It's a super cool gun.
Yeah,
Go
I'll
ahead.
be right back.
So it's a new gun, really cool concept. The challenge that I thought of, so kind of like if you're familiar with the Top Precision, the Top Precision guns, it's a completely new upper, which uses the existing lower receiver. So if you already have an upgraded buttstock, if you already have an upgraded trigger, you don't have to waste those. The DSI concept went about it a completely different perspective. They looked at it from the perspective of, okay, how can we make an AR a bolt action gun with the most parts commonality as they can with an AR-15? So basically using an AR handguard, using AR barrels, all of that fun stuff. So the way they went about it is they used an existing AR bolt. They did make some changes to the trigger in order so that the bolt doesn't go back and actually cycle. The only caveat that comes out of it, because the AR-15 bolt has a bunch more lugs around the side versus, let's say, a typical 2-lug 90 or like a 3-lug 60 or a 3-lug 70, it's only like a 20-degree bolt throw. So if you're coming at it from a typical precision rifle world, it makes it a little bit cumbersome. But I will say, once you get used to it a little bit, it's pretty cool. So it definitely is a concept. I'm probably going to go to Florida and actually shoot that gun. DSI was not at range day, but it looks like it's an interesting gun. There are a couple other companies that make a similar concept. Now, Bushmaster, 3 years ago now, they had their concept, but I did not see it anywhere in the booth. I know Troy Firearms make a similar one. And the reason the case used for it is actually a lot of the European special forces units, they are using those types of guns. And that's kind of like what they went for. So for hunters, for precision rifle shooters, they're looking at applications for like some of the NRA matches. I don't know the nuances or the rules, but that can basically work a little bit better for you. So it's definitely interesting.
Okay. I'm going to Florida in a couple of weeks. If I squeeze out an afternoon, maybe I'll go visit DSI. Mr. D. Ball Smith III. Love these long YouTube handles just for me to try to pronounce. I'm already half in a fucking bottle. Any word or rumbling on a Viper PST Gen 3 line for 2024 that you can speak of? So Vortex was not a chat show. They haven't been for a few years, and there's nothing that I can speak of. Mr. Chen, MDT field stock versus JRS budget stock. I know what MDT field stock is. What is a JRS budget stock?
I can bring one out. So we have the Fenris, which is it's like about $300. It's a polymer. I did a couple of videos on those. If you're right-handed, I think it's okay. It's not as rigid as an aluminum one, but I probably would say, like, if you want a chassis, I mean, you can have a number of chassis for the same price as a stock. But I'll probably say if you want a little bit more versatility, go with the field stock. I like the GRS Fenris stock, but it's limited. There is no M-lock on it or anything else like that. So it's a true hunting stock, if that makes sense. It's limited into the terms of number of inlets, and it's not metal bedded. It's purely fiberglass, and you will need bottom metal if you want to use detachable magazines. Both have their use cases. I have a couple of the GRS stocks. I don't have the MDT field stock. But then I would also say, honestly, for the money, if you want a true stock, it's tough to beat a KRG, and now KRG has
Bravo, right?
Bravo, and now they have the KRG Echo, which is a Bravo Light for the Tikas. And then if you want a chassis,
I was about to say. So So what I was gonna say is that MDT is only available for Remington short action and Ruger American short action. So when they make it for some sort of a decent gun, then we can talk about it. GRS is available for a variety of things, including the Tikas, and same for the KRG Bravo. I have not used the Fenris. I've used similar looking wooden stocks from GRS. They're fairly comfortable. But I have used the KRG Bravo, and I have used NDT field stock. I think the KRG Bravo would get my nod. And I think it's about $100 more. I think KRG Bravo was maybe around 400, and the other one's about $3.
Under 4. Yeah, so you can get the Bravos for about
like
3 to 4, depending on where you get it.
So as much as I like MDT as a company, until they inlet it for something useful, I don't know how interested I am.
But if you have a custom action that has a 700 footprint, so you can't say that a Remington.
There's a reason I don't have a custom action with a 700 footprint.
Okay.
Because it's anything even remotely related to 700 is toxic.
So you don't have any Bergaras either?
Nope.
Okay.
When I hold grudges, I hold grudges.
Got it.
All right. Let's see. All right. A bunch of people commented they can hear us. Mr. D. See, that's how you do YouTube handle. One letter, D. Although double D probably would be better. But I'm going to buy a Theta for General Hunter. Which one do you recommend, the 15X or 25X? So for General Hunter, you have weight limitations. I would use the 3 to 15 with a 30mm tube. With 6.5 Creed or something like that, it'll take you out to 1,200 yards just fine. Mr. Red-Headed Stepchild, any news on the Sai 1 to 8 by 24? So Sai, for those who you don't know, it's not a very well-known brand, and it's unfortunate. It's a brand from the guys at Armament Technologies, same company that does Tangent. Their only currently LPVO is Sai 6, and they added some additional milliradian-based reticles. So it's not just BDC reticles today. It's one of the comparative few low-power variable scopes that made their way here and that are still here. Most of them come and go. Sai 6 staying here. It's an excellent design. They don't have a 1 to 8 by 24 coming, at least not that I'm aware of, and I've asked. Somebody started that rumor. I don't know who started it. I could never track it down. Right. They don't have a 1 to 8. Now, to be fair, I know of a few things that I didn't start it.
Okay.
No, seriously, I did not start it. I know what they are working on, and I'm not aware of 1 to 8. Maybe they have something else I don't know about. Now it's possible. I don't have no idea where that came from. For now, with their low power variables and just a 1 to 6, and it is an excellent 1 to 6. All right, if you are looking for front focal plane low power variable in the $1,200-$1,300 range, you could do much worse than size 6. Mr. B. Warren 5, what do you think about the Gideon Advocate microprism? The reticle looks like an odd design to me. Yeah, it looked pretty good. I mean, it's an inexpensive prism from a good OEM. I know who OEMs it. I think they did a good job with it. The reticle is a little bit odd, but it works. It's quick. I mean, and one of the things you have to keep in mind is that there are a few patents out there that people try to work around, and it's not always straightforward. I will say this, I just pulled it up to look at the price. I thought it was around 300, but you can pick it up for about 230. So it's a very nice prism. You can pick it up for about 230, and the reticle is actually very usable. So this is what I was looking for. I'm going to put it up on the screen for those who are not familiar with it. There you
go. I don't see it on the screen.
No. It's it's a multi-step process.
Okay.
So let's see. Since I'm using, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So this is what the reticle in the Gideon Advocate looks like. So the guy behind Gideon is Mike Branson, who used to be with Swan Fox. Before that, he worked for Primary Arms. As far as 1x prismatics go, it's one of the better ones. There's a segmented circle and a big ass triangle. It's going to be very fast to use, whether it's illuminated or not. And I don't know. I think it's a pretty freaking respectable design. To be honest, it's a 1x scope. I'm not requiring precision. I always thought it was a little bit odd to have holdovers in a 1x scope. Not a bad thing to occasionally have something a little further below for the close range stuff, but it works well. Okay. So it's not too bad at all. All right, Mr. Gun-toting Minnesotan is here. Thank you, sir. 9 minutes
Hey,
ago.
Andrew.
Showed up. John Lacorte says that he's feeling fine, which is very good. A few other people showed up. Okay. Stephen Newman, you mentioned recently an Element Hyper 3x. Is that something they're considering or definitely happening? It's definitely happening. It's definitely happening, and I do some reticle stuff for Element, so
it's not out yet?
They showed it at SHOT Show, but it's not out for sale yet.
Okay.
Good.
They didn't show it last year. No, last year was just the Hyper 7, right?
Yeah, correct. There's a Hyper 7 is for sale. I have one, and a Hyper 3 is also was shown at SHOT Show. Basically, the back end is the same Hyper 7, just the front end is different. Same kind of electronic reticle and stuff like that.
Okay.
Looked pretty good to me. So, gentlemen, Mr. Slavguns is now looking blurry to me again. Is it my internet connection, or did his camera go out of focus, or what happened?
My camera's in focus.
Okay. Then maybe my eyes can't look at you anymore. What's possible?
Hey, now. No, I don't think it's my camera. I have enough light on here. Could be you.
All right.
Maybe you need glasses. So let's say it was actually on my stream that it was Buzz. He was like, "Hey, you need glasses. Like you're smart." I'm like, "Fine." I put them on, so now I just live it.
Yeah. Okay. He looks clear to Link. All right. I think my hotel internet's just doing something weird.
Did you pay for the premium internet, or are you using your points?
I am a Titanium Elite member at Marriott. Every perk they have comes to me free and automatically. It's not free. I mean,
it's all about the IHG.
Yeah, I used to be with IHG. I switched.
I used to be Marriott. I switched.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. MDT equals to money dispensing tool. I like it. That's a very good way of looking at it. Mr. Blind Spotter, looking for an NRL Hunter scope but don't have tangent money. How about the Nexus Gen 2 or Striker 3.5 to 21? Which one? Which would you choose, Ilya, or maybe something else? Mr. Slavguns, are you familiar with both of these? Either one?
I don't have tangent theta money. I have.
He's asking about Nexus Gen 2 and Delta.
I don't have which Nexus? The Element Nexus?
The Element Nexus Gen 2, 4 to 25 by 50.
If you're looking for something in that line, I mean, we were discussing this, and I know he's still here. My personal favorite, realistically, is the Track Toric 4 to 25.
Yeah, he's asking for an NRL Hunter. The Track is a lot heavier than either one.
Save some weight somewhere else.
NRL Hunter is weight limitations. No,
but it's for the total package, I believe, right?
For the total package, right? So the Toric is in a very nice scope. I have one. It's not for NRL Hunter.
I'm fairly positive. What's the weight difference? I mean, it's only probably a couple of ounces, right?
About 10 ounces, I think.
That much between them?
Yeah.
Even though they're kind of based on the same thing.
Correct. So, but
interesting. So I have experience with the Nexus Gen 1. I haven't had experience
weight for the Element, and I think it's like 29 ounces, something like that. 28 ounces, and I think the Track is 37 or something like that. All right, I'm definitely having internet issues because that page is not loading, or maybe Element Optics is having issues. But between the Nexus Gen 2 and the Striker, it is a tough one. They're both good scopes. And I have not had them side by side, but they are from the same generation of Light Optics Works scopes. The Striker, I think, is about 26, 27 ounces, and it does have a slightly smaller objective, and it goes to slightly lower magnification.
Can I perhaps add
Of
a
course.
slight perspective for you to look at it. So I know one of the things,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you're an engineer, you look at it purely from the which scope is best perspective. But if the optics, if the scopes, if you have to think so difficult between the two, are there other perspectives to approach this is, whether it's going to be who's going to be providing the support, the price, things like that, that could potentially put one over the hill versus the other?
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So support with Element is a little bit easier, but both companies stand behind their product. Okay, John is saying that Toric is 39 ounces. There you go. So I think the Nexus is around 29, 30 ounces, something like that. Oh, there you go. 30.7 ounces. So
Wow.
Tract is a 30 millimeter tube. No, Tract is a 34 millimeter tube. Nexus is at 30. And the difference is 8 ounces. And the delta is another 3 or 4 ounces less. For my use, it's a tough one, right? So for my use, low magnification is a little bit more important than high magnification, I'll admit, not by that much. And I like that the delta is a little bit shorter. Also, if you're going to be going in low light, although it has a smaller objective, the way the reticle illumination is done, it'll work better than either Tract or Element. Sorry, John. Tract and Element both illuminate the whole reticle, which is useful during the day when you are shooting against dark targets.
Okay.
But if you are shooting in actual low light, it basically kills your ability to see anything. The whole thing freaking lights up. I have this argument with people all the time in competition. Guys usually want the whole reticle lit up, and hunters usually
So
want only part
here's
of
a
it lit up.
product idea, and it's hard to interject because
So,
this is actually pretty interesting. So one of the trends that we saw from one of the big optics company, well, I guess one of the faster growing optics companies, is they came out with the segmented red dot sights, where you can have basically the choice between which dot you can go with. Is it possible to have a scope where you can have two types of illumination, either have just the center crosshairs illuminated, or then have the entire reticle illuminated?
yes,
Because
it is possible. Schmidt does it on the dual CC 1 to 8.
yeah,
Nobody and Blazer on the 1 to 7 does it. It's possible. It's a little bit involved,
okay,
but technology exists and it can be done.
can be
So let me
done at
finish my point.
Okay, go ahead.
So the Striker has pretty decent turrets, but the turrets on the Nexus Gen 2 are completely different, unique to Element. They're custom designed turrets. Somebody designed for them. So on balance, if you can live with extra 4 ounces, and given that it's a competition scope, not a low light hunting scope, I would probably say Nexus Gen 2 by a hair based on the better turrets. Okay. If it's gonna be doing double duty as hunting in low light, etc., I'd do the delta despite the small objective simply because of how the illumination is done. In terms of pure image quality, etc., these are very, very similar scopes.
What about from the reticle perspective?
Both of them have decent tree reticles. I slightly prefer the reticle in the delta.
Okay.
But honestly, the element reticle is good. The reticle in the Tract is excellent. Modern tree type reticle. My only issue with it is that the whole thing's illuminated. So.
Yeah.
And again, it's my issue as in my preferences, right? Quite a few people disagree, and they do have a perfectly reasonable point, all right? So, I mean, I only say that you're always wrong. Other people can be occasionally right. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know you're basically trying to keep up your persona of this evil dark Sith.
Yeah. Somebody has to.
So now, because this
Since
is
you're not helping, so I have to.
All right, so I am going to keep you on point though. So this is SHOT Show
Yeah.
2024 wrap up. Within those same two scopes, I know we discussed it in my stream. One of the big things that came out at SHOT Show this year was the Loophole Mark IV. So I know typically the Loophole Mark.
I hate internet.
Okay. So last year, which part did you not catch?
You said the Loophole Mark IV came out.
Okay, so basically, to keep it on point to the SHOT Show 2024, and I know we had this discussion a couple of days ago. Typically, when you're talking about people who are competing and weight was a factor, you had the Vortex LHT, and then you had the Loophole Mark V. Now, this year, we have the Loophole Mark IV. So do you think that those scopes now have a place in that same conversation which we were just having?
Very likely, yes, but the basic problem is that I have not yet tested the Mark IV.
Okay.
It looked promising. I talked about it in my earlier days of shot overview, but as promising as it looks, I cannot recommend a scope that I have not tested.
Perfect.
That is my basic shtick, right? If I recommend something, that is essentially means I am endorsing a scope, and I will not endorse a scope I have not spent a significant amount of time with.
There you go.
I have had enough hands-on time with the Element. I have the Striker. I can talk about these with comparative authority, if you wish. I don't know if authority is the right word. I don't have a better one. But Mark IV, as promising as it looks, I just don't know yet.
Cool.
Okay. So let's see. I'm just trying to catch up to the comments and then go back to the shot overview, because I haven't done a proper Q&A yet, and if we don't cover enough stuff on shot 24 today, I'm going to do another one next week.
Okay. Link, the answer to your question is yes. I have them right here. And those videos should be on Amazon already.
Left rings. What are the left rings?
So Discovery has new rings.
Okay.
And we're pre-lapped from the factory.
Oh, got it. Okay. Just a copy of the Area 419.
No clue.
Idea. The Area 419 originally came out with that idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
somebody else too. I digress. Different conversation.
Doesn't matter. Calling a spade a spade. Mr. I do not even want to sound this out. CNTBCKT.
I think that sounds cunt bucket.
Exactly. That's why I didn't want to.
Oh, got it. Okay. I thought it was your English as a second language issue.
Uh-huh. And yet only one of us gets paid for writing in English. But I digress. Considering the popularity of 6x and 8x LPVOs, why is it so difficult to find 1.5 to 9 or 12 options? Is there some difficulty specifically with this range? No, it's just that not that many people, it's not a popular configuration. I actually have a 1.5 to 9 by 45 Delta Titanium HD. It's one of my favorite general purpose hunting scopes. I have it on my 300 Wisdom spectacular scope. GPO makes a couple of those. GPOs are made in China. Deltas is made in Japan. It has a fiber optic illumination. It's really fast on 1.5. Not as fast as a true 1X, but very fast. Excellent design. Mr. Gun-toting Minnesotan, I've got the Theos coming in. In your review, you mentioned it's stopping at 23 mils. Is it internally limited, like the Rayton or Black Hound optics are? The elevation turret on the Theos is at a 12 mil radian per turn, almost two turns. That's why after you set the zero stop, it stops at 23 mils. That's it. Okay, let's see. As unlimited to 2 revolutions only, and it stops. Correct. Oh, Mr. Wolford has Element 5X game today compared to PLXC and ACOG for an hour before this stream. Wow, it has an optical blemish, but seriously impressed otherwise. What is the optical blemish? I'm very interested now. It's the first one I know of. They have not been, I checked with Element, there have not been any returns on this scope yet. So yours might be the first one. So I'm very curious what the blemish is. Please let me know. Mr. Rammers at Twangers goes, your Element immersive reticle illumination is just superb. So on that reticle, what I asked them to do is not make it too bright. I want it to work well in low light and at dusk. I don't care if it's visible during the day. Day bright illumination is not so easy to do. And at this price point, I didn't want to risk it. Cue ball, original Element Nexus is really hard to beat as an all-around scope, especially for hunting at different distances. True, but the Gen 2 Nexus is legitimately better, and the windage turret is covered, which for me makes a big difference. So he's continuing. Nexus Gen 2 seems to be another Me Too scope. It's just like any other 4 to 25 scope. Yeah, optical system is obviously related, but the turrets are completely unique. So that makes a big difference. Mr. Chen on his rings goes, not as nice, I say, as Area 419. No, and it's probably not priced as much either. So we'll see.
But it's not his.
All right, and Mr. Cunt Bucket has confirmed that that's exactly what his name that I have now verbalized means.
You said it louder.
Yeah.
You said it like you had experience with it.
Uh, someday when we get
Although,
together in person, I'll tell you some
why would
stories.
it? So, based on the statistics, I mean, the odds are he's about 90. That person, you said Mister, we're 95 to 98% male. That's not an appropriate name for a male to be a blank bucket.
I'll drink to that. And spoken by a man who just an hour ago identified as a woman. Yeah, go figure.
I identify as a suppressor right now. Do you feel better about that? I'm gender fluid.
Oh yeah, I finally got a call from Q today. The two suppressors I had bag ordered with them, the pork chop and the short chop, are ready. Going to my FFL. I'm very excited.
Fantastic.
Okay, that's interesting. Mr. Wolford says it has a black dot in the top right of the FOV. Are you talking about the black, like a piece of debris that's sitting on the reticle or something like that? Either way, take a picture and reach out to Element guys. Send it back to them. I hope the replacement works better for you. Okay, Mr. Cunt Bucket referring to the 1.5 to 9 concept. Says strange. I honestly thought they would be high demand for such a product, especially among hunters. Perhaps I'm just a weirdo. Well, the name alone, but I've to be honest with you, I've been pushing 1.5 to 9, 1.5 to 8, and other comparatively such designs for quite a few years. I like them. I killed my first elk with 1.5 to 8 by 32 scope, and I am clearly in the minority. In the American market, an overwhelming majority of people are convinced that bigger is better.
Yeah.
I think they're wrong, but scope manufacturers will make something that sells. So I think most companies should have a scope like this, not necessarily because it's going to sell in large quantities, but because it will prevent potential customers from going to the competition, right, for defensive purposes, because there is enough demand for it, but it's never going to be a highest selling model.
So here's the question. I mean, is it the chicken or the egg issue of, I mean, like you have like such high magnification and people are pushing for high magnification. I know, for example, like one of the takeaways for me from this year is from the media day at the range. And for the long range shooting line, they had the targets out to 960 yards. And a number of the guns that I would get behind, I'm like, whoa, what the heck? I have to like zoom all the way out because like
Correct.
pretty much every single gun I get behind was cracked up to 30 power, 35 power, whatever was the highest magnification available on it. That's where we're at. And meanwhile, like we were shooting like an Ep.62 plate at 960 yards. I'm like, okay, I don't need to go past an 8 or a 9. It's like you just don't need it. So do you think like in order to change that, what do you think needs to happen?
Brain transplants nationwide.
Neuralink. Well, it's just it's
no. The truth is that, look, I mean, most of the people who are messing with the scopes. Most of the people messing with the scopes at range day have fired at 900 yards for the first time in their life during that range day. So they think that high magnification is the way to do it, and it's incredibly difficult to talk them out of it. I've been trying to do that for the last 20 years.
But here's the thing, though. So, I mean, you take a look at your typical LPVO purchaser, and like it's like, oh, I want to buy an LPVO because it's like I'm going to shoot between like 100 to 200 yards, and it's like you don't need 8 magnification to shoot 300 yards. It's like unless you're trying to shoot a dime at those distances.
I know people who are convinced they need 20 power to shoot at 100 yards. Otherwise, it's not enough.
I mean, maybe if you talk to the bench rust people, but I mean, like
no. I'm talking to the people who shoot twice a year.
Like legit, regular, normal gun owners.
Yeah, just normal gun owners. And so here's the basic problem with this magnification debacle. This idea that you need high magnification for distance, to the vast majority of people, is so self-evident, and they shoot so little that convincing them otherwise is, I know it sounds arrogant and condescending, and it's not how I mean it. It's just what I observe. You can't convince them otherwise.
don't think
Any
like
argument I make, they completely brush off because high magnification to them means long distance, and it's so self-evident that they don't listen to any argument otherwise.
Do you think a lot of it is also your typical content creator? So I kind of go back to, I remember like watching one of the videos from a big channel, and they were testing out budget ARs and were going for precision, and they slap on 30 power first focal plane reticle rifle scopes to shoot between 50 and 100 yards on an AR.
They
And
do
I'm
it
like,
all the time. An average content creator is not any more knowledgeable on guns and optics than an average shooter who shoots twice a year.
and I will
Look,
say,
you want to talk about well-respected, otherwise content creators?
Yeah.
I stopped watching any videos with Garant Thumb because every time he mentions something about optics, it's either complete ignorant bullshit or just complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And he seems to be a good shot and knows what he's doing with guns.
Yeah.
Best I can tell. I don't know the guy personally, right? And
Yeah.
he makes a very nice video. He's a personable guy. He's extremely successful. More power to him. Every time he says something about optics, my eye starts twitching.
Well, but I mean, like, it's also, it's the people who are watching those type of channels. I mean, we're not going to be 95% US males who are your more discerning gun owners. We're going to be largely 50 or 60% are going to be from overseas in India, and 15-year-old boys who are watching Counter-Strike videos.
Talk about something, you should learn something about it. I told you I want to do this video to take apart CDO's video, right? Which I'm still going to do. The reason I'm doing it now and not 3 years ago is that, he couldn't tell his ass from an elbow 3 years ago either. But I figured, like, when something's just starting out, I shouldn't pick on them.
Look,
if you've
you're
been
just
doing this
jelly.
for 3 years, you didn't learn anything.
Oh yeah, it's fine to admit that you're just jelly. The fact that an Arkin is as good as a Schmidt and Bender. It's a fact.
Mr. Big Brown Bear, if you're still there, it's been decided. I'm gonna pack him up next time I'm on the East Coast and send him your way. Make him plow fields or something.
Did you actually do a reaction for that or no?
No. I was going to, then I lost my voice.
Yeah.
So I will. You're gonna help me with that.
Sure, absolutely. No, but you know what though? It's like I said, it was really interesting, and you know what? I think part of the reason is, I mean, so coming into this, what most people kind of like don't know. I mean, like, you have a very nerdy background coming into this. I don't think most people actually know. The reason why I started the channel was I ran an investment advisory business for 15 years. I was getting burned out. I was also a financial analyst, and I cover Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Vista Outdoors, Cabela's before they were taken over, Sportsman's Warehouse. And I was a financial analyst, and I still publish research reports on Wall Street Journal, Seeking Alpha, covering the stocks. It was actually a couple executives at the largest gun company in the United States that asked me to do a YouTube channel, and same thing, some of the smaller brands that I consulted. That's how I kind of came into this. And kind of like with that mindset, a lot of the brands that I'm still talking to right now, people kind of think that like the gun industry is big. I mean, like, I would say we have a sizable lobby, but the gun industry as a whole, I mean, people don't realize with $3 billion, Michael Bloomberg a couple of years ago, he could have bought out Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Vista Outdoors, and shut them down and still have $500 million left over. And the technology in the space and the executives, I mean, like, they're not at the cutting edge of things. So there was an optics company that makes really high-end optics, and a number of creators in our space that tried reaching out to them like, hey, you have like a really good optic. It's going to be great for long range shooting. Like, can we do some videos with this? Can you send it out to us, either for at least for a T&E loan, something like that? And they're like, no, we're definitely not. And people kind of basically gave up hope on them. 6 months later, we see their video, their optic on 30 plus mils of internal elevation adjustment, first focal plane reticle rifle
So what's
scope.
the company?
I'm not going to say it, but I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
But they do like Gucci hunting scopes and I've talked to you about them before. We met him
Yes.
at Colorado. And then I see Verscope on a TFB TV video where James Reeves is testing it on a $500 Palmetto State Armory AR. And I'm like, okay. It's like, yeah, that's precisely the type of crowd and everything that you'd want to go for. Then that event that we went to, like I was just walking by, they actually come out, they stop me and they're like, hey, are you interested in working with us? I'm like, so I guess you learned from your big screw up. They're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, made a big check and did not convert at all. They're just barking up the wrong tree. So the more I go to SHOT Show, you talk to these companies, and I would say there are a few that truly understand how things work, and they don't mistake just a huge channel, and they know the difference between engagement and conversion. I'm sorry, they know the difference between awareness campaign and a conversion campaign. But the vast majority of the brands that you talk to, they don't. They don't know the difference. They think that, hey, we're going to buy a bunch of stuff on Instagram that's magically going to translate into sales. And they legit think it's like, oh, like, well, how many subscribers do you have? Or like, and they legit think that sending a high-end optic or something specialized to a very broad channel, they think that somehow they have the right audience, or they think that these people are going to be good ambassadors for them. And you're barking up the completely wrong tree. And where I do have to give credit is to Arkin, as much as like they have their own issues. When they started penetrating the market, they identified the right people. They compensated them quite well, and they were able to be more efficient with their campaign. So it doesn't at all surprise me that Garand Fummy, that he doesn't really know much about optics, but then you're going to have him speaking as an expert, or like, I mean, you have gun companies who will just do it anyway, and then they learn.
Look, if you make a mass market product, you want to convince the stupidest consumer possible.
Yep.
That's just the truth of it. And that's not my audience. That's just the truth.
Absolutely.
I may be artificially limiting my audience, but I have minimal tolerance for stupidity. And
Absolutely.
I assume that the people I talk to are intelligent and capable. They just don't know this, right? That's why I go into this educational
And this is
mode.
why
So
you have the audience that you have, and this is why you have these people who are committed to you. And this is why anytime I go to a show with you, we can't have a conversation until someone comes up to you and be like, hey, I need you to explain our business to us.
and then there's that.
And then there's
Oh,
that.
thank you. All right. Oh, here's a political question. Let's do that. From People Archives, Dark Lord of Optics. Are we expecting the end of the world this election period, to just some riots and batching? Not sure what batching means. It depends on who wins. If Trump wins, yeah, there'll be riots. I don't expect the end of the world. I do expect the longest election cycle in the history of the world. And I'm moderately embarrassed for the country that we can't do better than these two retards. But hey, we got what we got. Look, I voted for Trump twice. I'll vote for him again. I'll hold my nose, vomit all in my mouth, and vote for him again.
Not that your vote counts anyway. It's the powers that be that calculate it.
Yeah. I live in New Mexico. My vote doesn't count.
Well, we're both from the Soviet Union, so you have to appreciate this quote by Stalin. When they asked him, it's like, okay, like, do you care how people vote? It's like, yeah, I don't care how people vote. I care about who counts the votes.
That is very true. DLO is anti-Garantam. I'm actually not.
He is a
I think
douchebag,
he makes very well-made, entertaining gun videos. I just cringe every time he mentions something about optics because he just doesn't know, and what irritates me, doesn't want to know. But that is probably true for most gun tubers. You have to understand, most gun tubers do this because they want to have fun and they want to make some money, right? That's why we have sponsored videos and all that sort of stuff. I refuse to do sponsored videos, accept money from no one, and don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks. So I have a different take on it. Mr. Remmers and Twangers shot a playing card on edge at 100 meters with the element 5 to 30. Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, and Mr. Chandil.
I call bullshit. Because he didn't use a 40 power magnification scope.
Yeah, no.
I'm being facetious.
It is amazing how well you can shoot with the high quality 506 power scope.
Oh yeah.
Right. And with this little 530 prismatic that Element did, the reason I agreed to do the reticle for it is that the scope is very, very nice. What Arkin did possibly bring more people into the long range shooting compared to if that brand never existed?
Oh,
Good question. I don't know. I don't think so, because nobody's really shooting very far with Arkin. People pretend they're shooting far long range. But it's entirely possible that more people became interested.
I know that people shoot them far, but I'm not going to say. There's a comment from a match director that basically, like, yep, people come. There hasn't been a match that he has been a match director at where an Arkin hasn't failed.
You're correct.
But I will say something, like, I think, like, some of our designs, when they work really, really well, and they're a very attractive value proposition. So I think truly it's like, okay, look, it's like if your budget is $400, it's a very good scope. You just need to know the limitations of it. And kind of like, I think still one of my most popular videos on the channel is when I compared the Arkin SH4 Gen 2 versus the Vortex Venom. And I kind of laid it out. It's like, look, it's like if you're a typical gun owner, I would say go with the Vortex Venom, unless you are a gun owner and you can fundamentally understand whether there's an issue with the optic or the issue with you as the shooter. And if you can do that, let's say, for example, if you already have a lot of high-end scopes and you just want to get something that's going to be on a budget and it's not going to be mission critical, I would say the Vortexes, the Discoveries, and all of those, they have a use case for them. But if you have a better budget, there is, like, let's put it this way. It's like, I mean, like, there is a video that somebody did where they basically said that an Arkin is as good as a Schmidt and Bender, and that's purely, obviously, bullshit. Because at the end of the day, that Arkin SH4 is a $100 Chinese scope. That's what it is. So there are limitations on there. Yes, by being a direct-to-consumer brand, you can basically say you can compare a $400 Arkin to, let's say, a $700 Vortex or something like that.
You really shouldn't.
Yes, but like, at the end of the day, look, people compare the Strike Eagle to the Arkin SH4s all the time, or like the EP5s. And like I said, I mean, like, when I had them side by side, or let's say, for example, like something less competitive, like a Crimson Trace, or the original primary arms, the GLX series, which are still like at the or Burris RT25. Like, feature for feature, the Arkins deliver on the features. The issue for Arkin is the customer service, or lack of customer service.
So we've had this argument before, so I'm going to say one thing and then we'll go back to the shot overview. So you can only say that the company delivers on the features when those features work.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll leave you with that.
I don't disagree.
All right. So a couple of things from SHOT Show, since it's been going on for an hour and 40 minutes. Here's a picture for you.
You probably don't want to do that.
I talk about tripods a lot. This is a tripod from a company called Spartan Precision from UK. I've been hunting with their tripod this year, not with this exact one, but a very similar one. Look at what they did toward the back. So they added this thing on the back that provides a rear support. And it attaches to the legs of the tripod, and you can fold them up together. They made a couple of versions of this thing. There is a simple, like, shooting stick version that provides both front and rear support. It is extremely clever, and it is remarkably stable.
Here's what happens. What happens when you pull the trigger?
But I was extreme. It shoots.
But I mean, you have to support the gun as well. I mean, like, if you just like
yeah, you're behind the gun, right?
Okay.
It's not a bench. Your shoulder manages the recoil like anything else.
So basically, that rear support is purely just a little bit of rear support. It's not.
It's not a little bit. It's extremely sturdy.
It's only like
this will be the sturdiest standing or sitting shooting position you can come up with.
Okay.
I was impressed.
I haven't tried it. I don't know, but it looks interesting.
I spent some time screwing around with it. I've had prototypes last couple of years. This was production, right? I don't need to get my hands on it. Extremely impressive. Okay. And they had this. This is a Hungarian 50 BMG that was also in their booth. There's some guy in Arkansas who distributes it. The barrel, it's a bullpup 50 BMG with a moving barrel. The barrel moves back.
I mean, haven't we learned enough not to have like a 50 BMG round go off anywhere near your face? And now you want to put your cheek right on it?
I didn't say I want to shoot it, but it's really cool. So the couple of things from Torrey Pines Optics. This is an interesting prototype. A couple of guys I know near San Diego.
Okay.
They do a lot of stuff behind the scenes and a lot of consumer stuff, a lot of stuff in the military world. So this is a night vision clip-on using a very interesting version of a low-light CMOS. And that's actually very good image quality. That's coming out comparatively soon, not super expensive. So basically digital night vision clip-on. It should be kind of like a Gen 2 Plus level, maybe slightly better.
Nice.
Kind of an interesting thing. And this is also from them. This is an HD thermal clip-on. Transversely mounted battery, 1280 by something image, thermal image sensor, etc. That's going to be very interesting. So I did some stuff with Torrey Pines in the past. I didn't take a picture of it. They have a spotting scope that's finally about to be ready for production. That is has a external laser rangefinder, bore-sighted with a spotting scope, and inside the spotting scope there is a display where the information of laser rangefinder is projected.
Wow.
And there is an edged reticle. I did the reticle for them. I've been messing with prototypes for a while. In 2-3 months they will have one. It will kick ass. Basically a nice spotting scope with the same general design as a folded hand-sold spotter 45, except the laser rangefinder information is projected inside the scope. And so you have a reticle and an LRF. If you're looking at the target, you found the target, you lased it, figured out how far it is, and if you're spotting for someone, there is an edged reticle to be able to call out the corrections.
Actually, Andrew, you're right. That was the Lynx 50.
Probably have the production version.
Yeah. So that gun, the 50 BMG, that was the Lynx 50.
Lynx 15, correct. Okay. So.
Since you're talking about spotters, do you want to discuss that new Night Force? And somebody else had a spotter?
Not particularly.
Okay.
So for this something called the field spotter, Night Force had the 6-36 by 56 for $3,000 and just didn't look good. And Steiner had a 7-40 by 60 that looked okay, but not for $2,500. And Athlon had the Gen 2 Chronos Tactical 7-42 by 60, not Japan made, but in China. It's $1,000. They actually look pretty good. So Steiner Japanese for $2,500, Athlon Chinese for $1,000. That's rough. I'll tell you which one I'm going to test. As much as I like Steiner, they're good people, like some of my favorite people in the business, but for the love of God. I will say that the Steiner for $2,500 looked better than the Night Force for $3,000. But then again, it's hard to fall out of the basement. This thing, I'm going to put it up on the screen again, was interesting. So
is that the Hudson? That's the Hudson H9.
That's the rebirth of the Hudson. Let me zoom in. Okay. So Daniel, when Hudson went tits up, Daniel Defense bought the rights, made some modifications, and they reissued the H9 pistol, now the Daniel Defense. It was always a very, very clever design. I really like the way the trigger feels. I'm really interested. I'll need to reach out to Daniel Defense and see. From a gun standpoint, this is a very clever thing.
Do you know what
the way the recoil system works?
Do you know what they purchased from Hudson? Did they
the intellectual
just the IP? Made it so we're not supporting
the best of my knowledge,
Hudson.
Just the IP.
Okay. So if you still have Hudson, you're screwed.
A little bit of my design. What did you say?
So if you own a Hudson H9 or you had issues, you're still screwed.
Probably, but I don't know. I didn't ask. It's hard to say for sure. Okay. I'm just kind of going through the pictures, trying to see if anything is going to refresh my memory. Schmidt has a new reticle. That's going to be in the 6-36. It's a picture from the brochure. I have the brochure somewhere.
That reticle looks familiar.
I don't know what you're insinuating. I had nothing to do with this, although they clearly looked at some of my designs. But they did it on their own, and it's a good reticle. One of the better 3 reticles out there. Just a normal modern 3 reticle for people who think that the grid reticle is a little bit too much for the 6-36. So kudos to Schmidt. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They looked at a bunch of modern reticles, looked at some commentary, listened carefully to my reticle explanation videos, I think, and made this. Good for them. Okay. I don't think reticles should be patented, so that's not a little plagiarism doesn't hurt me.
I probably want to remove that
Daniel
picture.
Defense H9 has 0 parts interchange with
remove that picture.
Why?
Because of what's on the picture. The body parts that are on there.
The what?
The AI.
Okay, yeah. Good point. Good point. Let's hope they don't kill the stream. But if the YouTube kills the stream, we are still going to be going on Rumble and Locals and X. So this is the Henry lever gun that takes AR-15 mags. And
the wood looks nice.
It looks very nice. The wood looks very nice. It is very nicely polished. Everything worked. The wood to metal finish. Like, it looked very much production ready. And I generally like Henry lever guns. So that was it. But this was, we talked about this being the year of the lever gun. And I sort of said that if it's taken AR mags, I probably lean a little bit more toward the tactical looking lever gun. What are your thoughts? This is a very classic or hunting style lever gun with a detachable AR-15 magazine. You think this is worthwhile as a concept? Do you think Henry should have done a more tactical looking one? Or you think there's space in the market for everything? What are your thoughts?
They can't do a more so I had an interesting conversation. So kind of going back to my background, I'm a little bit more intimately familiar with Henry. The owner of Henry was one of my loyal subscribers and kind of had a little bit more insight into that. So when I talked to one of the PR guys at NRA, so they basically know that Henry as a company needs to progress and get out of their typical customer base. But some of the people in power, they do want to cling on to those classic type of firearms. So they are trying to progress, but they're not trying to make too much stuff. So while Ruger is one of those companies, if they see a business case for it, they'll absolutely do it. And that's why you have the tactical T-Rex Marlins. With Henry, let's put it this way. How can I put this? If you are a classic Henry collector, you can even say that the modern Rancher, I think that's the semi-auto one, is a little bit too much too fast towards progressive type guns. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I haven't looked at that one particularly myself. I think there's definitely going to be a market for it. Generally, anytime Henry creates a product, people go Googa Gaga over it. I'm not necessarily sure on the value of it, but there will be people who are going to be lining up in order to get one because they're collectors. The question is it going to have staying power longer term? So kind of like even like my take on the revolvers they came out with. It's cool, but I don't think it's worth the price. I almost kind of like think like, look, it's like if you're getting a pistol caliber carbine, I think that there's better alternatives that are going to be out there for a better, more affordable price. I definitely think that it's going to hit your typical Henry collector, but I don't think it's going to grow the market for them, nor would I go out of my way to go basically buy one.
Okay. That's fair. So I have 2 Henry lever guns. One is a very traditional 22 Silver Eagle, engraved and everything, which I really
Yeah.
like. And I have an all-weather side gate 57 mag lever gun, right? So which I set up for like sort of like the big boy all-weather, which I set up as a home defense gun in case New Mexico government goes completely batshit crazy.
Yeah. Well,
But on the other hand, they've had the long ranger for a while, which is just a general purpose modern magazine fed hunting lever gun, like a Browning BLR style.
Yeah. And I will say, so I mean, you come from a unique perspective. So I mean, you live in a state where semi-autos really legit could be outlawed. So you look at it from a little bit of a different lens. But I mean, personally here, look, it's like if I'm going to get a 300 blackout gun. So my only 300 blackout gun right now is a 7-inch SBR that used to have a forced reset trigger on it and was set up for a suppressor. So I mean, it was like legit stupid cool. But right now it's kind of like set up for home defense purposes, and takes 30 round clipazines. It shoots really, really fast, and it's really, really quiet. But I don't have the issue with capacity or semi-autos, like that you can't have semi-auto. So it's like, it's cool. Like, I mean, if I was a Henry collector, I would absolutely buy one, but not as a Henry collector, it doesn't do anything for me.
I'm not a Henry collector. I like lever guns. I think it's an interesting solution. I don't trust my state government. I don't trust my federal government. I don't trust any of these assholes. So I always have multiple layers of preparation.
You should try. I'll send you the link, or I'll see if I can get you a pump action AR. Those are cool.
I don't have any pump action ARs. The only pump action rifle that I really wanted originally was Remington 7615, but it was a Remington, so I never bought one. But it's interesting. I will sort of stick with it that I like the modern tactical lever gun idea, and for me, with magazine fed, I kind of prefer that. But I do like Henry's the mechanized gun, so that's going to be fairly tempting.
So like I really want the T-Rex. So honestly, so kind of like what my issue is. It's the fact that they have a classic type lever gun in a modern caliber, rather than taking a classic lever gun and making the gun itself modern. So kind of like, okay, like what's the appeal of the T-Rex Marlin is the fact that it's like that.
That's the Bond Arms version.
Yeah.
So that's the one I'm really curious about. It has what Bond Arms did is very clever. The stock is just the
and probably want to get rid of that picture too.
For Remington 870.
Yeah, and you probably want to get rid of that picture too.
Yes, probably. Oh, fucking YouTube.
Hey, it was designed because they don't want. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not.
Yeah. A bunch of fucking morons.
Well, it's the algorithm, and they don't want to give you publicity in case you decide to do something stupid. So just talk about Night Force anyway, so it's okay. Or Hollow Sun.
That's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. I switched the picture. Just going through the pictures. Did you get a chance to look at the new Citron S6?
Didn't they release the Citron S6 last year? But like,
yeah, but this is a new high mag version. I think it's 10 to 60 by 56, something like that. And this big ass machine side wheel for field target guys is
nice. So definitely
like
a bench press scope.
$300, something like that.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say again.
That side wheel that
is
like $300 just for that or something like that. Something.
I mean, Citron make decent stuff. I think it's like they're also kind of like they fall into the category where they're a company that makes quality stuff, but they're largely being forgotten.
Well, for a good reason. A, they don't market it. B, they don't know what a normal reticle looks like. And they keep on hiring people who have no idea, know nothing about guns or optics. So it's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And they change them very fast though. So to be fair.
Yes. Well, and Jeff, so like I kind of gave you the story. So like Jeff, I ran into him as now
Well, he's no longer
the
there, so he's
yeah, you know how I ran into him? I was at the B&H conference and I stopped by the Panasonic Lumix booth
Mhm.
because I switched from Sony to Panasonic. And I'm like, Jeff, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm the national sales manager for Panasonic Lumix.
Oh, good for him. So, but anyhow, one of the interesting things I said about this one, they say that they don't have a thermal drift, which is a big thing for field target shooters. I am going to try to have my buddy of mine who's a good field target shooter, Tyler Patner, take a look
But
at this thing.
here's the thing. On Citron, I mean, is their target market still primarily F-class shooters? F-class and bench rest?
They don't know what their target market is.
Okay. But traditionally, that's what
For
they competed
this scope, it's F-class and field target.
with.
No, they traditionally try to make scopes for a variety of different markets. They would just usually miss that target market.
Okay.
The S8 that Mr. Cuba was talking about, the S8, it's actually a very, very nice scope in many ways with a couple of weaknesses. But then they wanted to charge $3,000 for it, and Citron doesn't have the brand equity for $3,000. For $2,000, it was a great scope. So there's that. But anyhow, Citron is still around, still alive. They are a house brand of a major OEM. If they could get... So if Citron found a way to stop stepping on their own dick and hire a couple of competent people, they could be absolutely dominant. They can make very nice stuff. They just choose not to because of their OEM business.
They just need to hire you.
So I did go visit CTO. They have their new rings and mounts. Some new scope they had was under the table, so I didn't see that. But the mount actually looked pretty good. And again, so I've looked at a lot of mounts in recent months to see who did the largest proportion of utterly stupid shit. And as far as stupid shit goes, ZCO did almost nothing in this one. It's a very well thought out mount. I was very impressed.
How much? 600?
Probably expensive. They're all expensive. iRay. So they made the new version of the hybrid. This one is a 640 by 480 core with 75mm lens. Very, very nice thermal. Expensive. It's probably $7,500, something like that. But it works as a dedicated thermal and it works as a clip-on. And having looked at a large number of different iRay, InfiRay, whatever you want to call them, thermal scopes, I think they're putting their best cores into the hybrid. So
okay. Now, I want to make sure that you answer all the important questions. So PP Archives had a question. I'm not sure if you want to address that again. That's your second one, right?
A bottle of Japanese whiskey is not giving me the joy I expected now.
Watch this live stream from the beginning.
Holosun thermal optics are crap. For now. They might do better in the future. I don't know. It's a capable company. But at this moment in time, they're crap. Good enough?
Sorry.
All right.
It's because I didn't even bring it up this time.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Hey, it's one of your valued subscribers.
Pictures. Oh, there we go. So I talked a little bit about primary arms when Mr. Big Brown Bear mentioned it. So this is the eyepiece for this PLX second focal plane. So this is, once again, if you're not looking at it as a DMR scope, and your basic operating mode is lightweight, high quality, low power variable, excellent on one power, nuclear bright, reticle, comparatively simple, high visibility reticle, shooting mostly within, 300 yards or so, where you want to use a little bit of magnification for better target ID and all that, or to occasionally make a precise shot. This might be your best option out there just because of what it offers at a very low size and weight.
I love how they did the Pro lever on there.
Yeah, it folds in. They have it ships with two different ones. One is permanently sticks out, another one folds in. They did it very good.
My only question on that, and here's a question for you as an engineer. So if someone does, like, obviously, if you flip it up and how it's designed to be, then it's going to put like proportional stresses on there. If you're trying to, I don't know, depending, I guess, possibly on how stiff the magnification adjustment is, if that lever is towards the front and you don't flip it up and you're just adjusting it that way, would it potentially induce stresses in a different way that it's supposed to?
The way that one is attached, probably not.
Okay.
Maybe, but probably not. But I'm quite friendly with an engineer who designed that. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. Okay, Mr. Pupio Archive says, any other ways I can make the Dark Lord drink? Yes, and I'm not going to tell you what they are.
Ask him
And
about
Mr.
Night Force.
Slevguns is not going to tell you either.
You brought it up earlier.
I did no such thing.
Now, so here's a question, cool question for you. You said that one was not meant for DMR type use. Why do you say that the primary arms
It's
is not
optimized for DMR type use. You can use it for DMR type things. So,
How so?
Here is that's actually a good question. Oh,
You said the
Five Frank
local
says that local stream ended.
Ooh.
Oh, that's right. So for those of you who are still here, so I'll need. How interesting. So
does locals have a time limit?
Yeah, locals. So for depending on the size of your community, my community has a 2-hour time limit, and we just hit it. I am going to put a comment there so that the stream is still going on Rumble and YouTube.
Freaking commies.
Locals has a 2-hour time limit that I did not think about. Oh well. Okay. Hopefully people will jump ship to other platforms. Where was I?
How it's not optimized for
DMR versus non-DMR use. So with low power variables, there's always a bit of an argument whether you wanted second focal plane or front focal plane.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, that has something to do with it. And the difference is basically simple. So it's much easier to make a highly visible fast reticle with a second focal plane scope. And that's what these new PLXCs do. It's more work with front focal plane ones because you need a more complex reticle or very expensive illumination system, stuff like that. However, if you're planning to shoot a little bit further out with most low power variables, you're basically going to hold with the reticle for elevation, for trajectory, and for wind. And that becomes much easier to do when you have a front focal plane reticle, because in a second focal plane reticle, you basically have to dial all the way up. If you're doing many 1:6 scopes are pretty easy to use just on 1x and just on 6x. But I will use them on 4 and 3.5 all the time for when I need to shoot somewhat accurately from a less steady position, something like that. Once you start going to 1:8 or 1:10, being just on low power, just on high power, except for some except for some specific situations, it's a little bit less viable. You start shooting on intermediate magnifications quite a bit. And the moment that happens, you really want to have a front focal plane reticle to be able to hold for wind, for lead, for trajectory compensation, things like that.
So here's a question.
So the second focal plane scopes, like the PLXC, you can absolutely dial it up to 8 power and use it a little further out, and the reticle gives you the holdovers, but it's not ideal for it. So if your use beyond MPBR is very sporadic, second focal plane is going to work great for you. If you are a weird jackass like me who shoots far away with everything because I like doing it, you will lean toward the front focal plane designs. But for home defense gun, second focal plane is a great idea.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. On LPVOs, as popular as they're becoming, why don't we see more scopes on the FFP side come with parallax adjustments?
So there are a few. One of my favorites, the Delta Striker 1-10x28, actually has side focus, and there is a reason it has side focus, specifically because it's designed to be more of a general purpose design, like the March Shorty 1-10, for example. Same reason and all that. If you properly set it up, you don't run out the depth of field until about 800 yards or so.
Correct.
Without side focus, with most modern high-quality LPVOs. And that is sufficient for the typical range envelope for these designs. For me, it's not, once again, because I'm weird. So, for example, my Razor Gen 3 1-10, which is still my favorite overall low-power variable, I went to Vortex and I reset the focus distance to 300 yards. So mine is, I run out the depth of field at shorter distances, but at shorter distances, I'm okay lowering the magnification.
Yep.
But I can actually use it on 10 power past 1,000 yards. And as it came out from the factory, I was running out of depth of field a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and especially as
For vast majority of DMR and sniper applications are a little bit different. The DMR applications. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And basic, the traditional DMR envelope is out to about 800 meters. You don't really need side focus for that with most modern LPVOs.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So it's primarily the
Think
case
of it this way.
Because people aren't necessarily going to be using it at those distances. But I mean, for example, as LPVOs, it used to be, let's say, 1 to 4, 1 to 6. Now we have the 1 to 8s, 10s, and so forth, where it's perfectly fine to go shoot. If you're shooting steel plates, you don't need that much magnification. So, and like I said, you could be shooting it at 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 yards.
You're right. But it depends on the size of the plate. If you're shooting a torso size plate, you don't need that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. So that's it. But anyhow, I was very impressed with this new PLXC. I'm going to get my hands on one and do a proper review.
Okay. What's the price point on that?
So let's see. Probably around 1,500-1,600, something like that. 15. I'll get the confirmation. So let's see, Mr. Marketer, to off topic, but are we going to get an Israel-Hamas update soon? I was kind of hoping to wait until they get all the hostages out, but maybe I should do an update. I do need to be a little bit careful talking about that one because of what my day job is. So I need to give it a little bit of thought. But I should. People archives. I'll just have to go to Rex reviews, Churchill stuff, then ask the Dark Lord his opinions about Rex comments. For the love of God. Wise ass. Did Victronics have anything new? Yes, but they didn't have a booth. They were just going around showing it to a few people. It is allegedly very clever and very good, but since it's
they
not
were
fully
briefcasing
about it. Yeah. Yes, they were. So I will when they come out with it, we can talk about it. It's very nice, but fairly expensive, as you usually would have from electronics. That's not really unusual. So Primary Arms had the new GLX prismatic with incredibly flexible eye relief. That's another Primary Arms I want to look at. And they had also, so they started proliferating this whole fiber illuminated dot business.
That's the Nova, right?
Yeah, what they're calling ACSS Nova reticle. So now it's also in a 1 to 10 by 28 SLX scope, and it's in a more expensive PLX-C. And then there's a new GLX 1X prismatic, which I really liked. So all this stuff that Primary Arms had that I can talk about. My primary interest is the PLX-C with a fiber reticle and the GLX 1X prismatic. I think it's a step up in terms of prismatics. I already talked about Swamp Fox a little bit. Once again, some of the more interesting stuff was behind the scenes that I can't quite talk about, but there's a Gen 2 Tomahawk with, again, fiber reticles of different colors. That's going to be very good. All the red dots, except for the Kraken so far, have gone through an update, and there's a multi-reticle red dot, red elimination, and there is just a simple dot green elimination on all of them. They actually look pretty good collimation quality. Look better, and expect good things from Swamp Fox over the next 3 to 6 months. So we'll just have to cover that when we come along. And just because I like saying this, Mr. Cunt Bucket, have y'all, I can't say y'all, I'm not Texas enough.
All y'all.
I'm in Texas right now. Heard of any new fixed power options hitting the market? It's slim pickings for a 10 power. Athlon has a newish 10 power scope with side focus and all that. That's pretty good. Late last year, I wrote a couple articles about the updated SWFA 10x fixed power scope. There's those were going to be finally available comparatively soon. SWFA didn't have a booth, but I did have a meeting with them at SHOT Show. But soon I'll be able to talk about that more. But I wrote a couple articles for Guns and Ammo on the new 10 power with an updated reticle and updated turrets and all that. Nice scope. I fully expect to have one before too long. I didn't do a video on it because when I was looking at it, it was all very, very hush-hush. But magazine release schedule does not care what's hush-hush, so it's only in print for now. Let's see. So Apex Optics, we both have been there, although at different times. So they finally received the production shipment of their hunting scope, the 3 to 15 by 44. It actually looked quite nice. Turrets are good. The reticle looked interesting. To maintain visibility, it's their hunter scope. The primary aiming dot is 0.25 mil, which is very big. I'm very curious to see how well it will work. For a hunting scope, it's not a bad idea, but if you want to use it as a crossover, it's a large dot. So I'm a little bit mixed on it, but it's probably something worth exploring. Optomechanically, the scope looked very nice. Did you get a chance to see this one?
I did, and I thought it was okay, but I don't have like any strong. I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other to it. I mean, it looked very in place with the overall Apex product lineup.
Correct. Also, I like the general configuration, so it's something I'm interested in looking at.
Now, actually, here's a question. Like, I'm looking at
Apex had a couple of red dots.
Yeah. So that turret, the hash marks on there look extremely similar to they look extremely similar to the ones on my Crimson Trace Series 5. Is that the same OEM or no?
It's shocking. Same OEM.
Yeah. It's a lot of similarities on there.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's the same scope or same quality scope, but it's the same OEM. Crimson Trace did a very special thing with those scopes. And when I say
then they got rid of all of them. And then they got rid of all of them.
I thought that was boneheaded, but hey, what do I know? Apex had a couple of new red dots. I think they're a little bit too expensive, but they did have aspheric lenses and good collimation quality. And another thing that I like for both of them, they had this add-on shields in the back to make them look like enclosed sights. That actually worked pretty well. But I think didn't remember the price you said there, like $700, something like that.
One was like the cheaper one was like $450 or $479, and then this one was like
would be this one.
And then this one, like the bigger one, was in the 600s. Yep. So this was the cheaper one, and then the other one was in the high 600s or possibly low 7s.
It's a nice full-featured red dot. I like the battery tray. I like these additional thing to cover it and all that. But it's a little excessive. I don't know.
Well, it's just
I have somewhat mixed feelings about it.
One of the things that one of my guys noticed when you're playing with it and you had it against a dark background, so it's a segmented red dot, but even if you have like the halo or like the ring around the outside turned off, even when it's turned off, you can still see the image of it, like faintly against dark surface.
So it's called the ghost image.
Ghosting, yeah.
It's possible, yeah. We'll see. These were prototypes. We'll see what the production ones look like. They didn't reinvent red dot. It's done by a company that does these all the time, so I assume it's going to be worked out. But we'll see. The interesting, really for me, the most interesting thing in the Apex booth was a very high quality, a $1,700-$1,800, I think, a 15 by 56 binocular with a reticle. We've been asking for something like this for a while. My buddy Will, who you see in this picture, he's a PRS shooter. He basically got his hands on this thing and refused to let go. So make what you will out of it. Let me see. There we go. High power binocular with a reticle and a laser rangefinder, something that PRS guys have been asking for a while.
Wait, did that
We
one have
haven't
a
gotten
laser
yet one.
rangefinder?
No, it does not. So
Okay, there.
we haven't gotten an LRF one yet, but at least we got a 15 high quality 15 power binocular with a reticle in it. It's a step. It's a step in the right direction. And optically, it looked very good. Mechanically, it all looked very nice. The reticle is reasonable. I think it's nice to see Apex, although they're not the only ones. Athlon also is. It's nice to see all these people paying attention to the market because
here's
we've
the
been
thing,
asking
though.
for it.
Here's the thing, though. So, okay, like, if you like, practically speaking, if you're a hunter, you're not gonna use those big ass binos. So
Oh,
you do
we use them all the time. You're joking. In the West, it's extremely common.
Okay. So like I'd think, like, okay, if it's a product that's gonna be catered towards the PRS crowd, I mean, like, you're cutting that market, you're cutting that pie extremely niche. So higher price point. It's like, I mean, how many units would you need to do in order to break even on that? And like, you would know those economics better than I can.
I don't know how many, but I don't think they'll lose money on it at all.
Okay.
And hunting with big eyes out in the West here is extremely common. You know how much time I spent with the 15 power track Torix last year? Quite a lot.
Okay. So I granted, yes, I'm absolutely East Coaster, and like, I mean, I do have a pair of 15x binos, but like I barely break him out, and I use my 10x at primarily. So I mean, you have binos with rangefinders built in, but most of them are going to be on the lower magnification. And I'm thinking, okay, like those guys kind of like, that's going to be the bigger pie that you would be targeting.
That's going to be a bigger pie, but what Apex is going for is not a small market.
It's not that small. Okay.
No. Big eyes is very common for cows, deer hunting, and pronghorn hunting out west. Okay. And that's kind of a growing thing. When I'm out glassing, scouting, where I'm going to hunt later, I don't. So it is much less eye fatigue when you're glassing with a binocular versus a spotting scope. So if I'm going to be spending a lot of time behind the glass, I will frequently have a 15 power and like a 6.5, 7 power, or 8 power binocular with me when I go out there. And bulk of that glassing happens off of the tripod. Okay, so there is a market there.
Okay.
So this is a view from one of the new Swamp Fox low power variables with the blue fiber dot.
Ooh.
It's a very quick handheld type picture, so I apologize. I just put this thing on my cousin's shoulder and took a handheld picture through a scope just to show you a blue dot. Okay. There we go. Interesting. The way with my hand shake and everything, it looks misshapen. It looked perfectly crisp. Normal fiber reticle, couple of wind holds, couple of holdovers. I think that Milleredian delineated thing worked. It will work great for the $400. That's a competitor. For primary arms, SLX. And I expect this is the Tomahawk Gen 2. I expect this to make a killing for Swamp Fox.
Okay. So it's still the same owners at Swamp Fox. It's just different leadership.
Yeah, Swamp Fox is the same scope. I think this is what it looks like on the outside. Well-made scope, somewhat updated turrets. Look pretty nice. So they'll have the 1-4, 1-6, and 1-8. This is, I think, a 1-6, or just a 1-4 and 1-6. I don't remember. I think it's 1-4 and 1-6. So the 1-4 scope that they're coming out with is supposed to be very short, about 8 inches, something like that. Shorter than this one by a couple of inches. I asked them, they should be getting one fairly soon. I asked them to send me a 1-4 with a fiber illuminated amber dot to play with. I really like short scopes, and I'm okay with the 1-4 for the kind of thing this is going to be used for. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see. Okay. So Swamp Fox is doing good things, and once again, there were some things in the conference room that are not officially out yet.
Here's a question. A couple of years ago, they showed off that Swamp Fox scope with like a 40mm tube or something insane like that.
Which part of back in the conference room that I can't talk about did you not understand?
They had it on display a year ago, so I don't know if it was the same products or not.
And I yelled at them, and they pulled it away and completely redesigned it.
All right. I was wondering. I was just like
Stay
thinking
tuned.
about it. I'm like, it was there, and like they talked about it. I think we did a video on it. I didn't actually mean. I didn't know what was in that conference room, but like I was just wondering, like since you brought up Swamp Fox, I'm like, did
There's
anything
more
ever
than one
happen?
thing, but yeah,
Yeah. So here's the. So it's the same
it's gonna
owners
get
at
much
Swamp
better.
Fox. It's the same owners at Swamp Fox. It's
Correct.
just new leadership.
No, same leadership.
Well, didn't that guy from Swamp Fox? He went to go Gideon.
Mike Branson is now Gideon Optics. He was in charge of marketing, but the overall leadership of the company did not change.
Got it. Okay.
So Swamp Fox is a house brand of a very respectable Chinese OEM, just like, for example, Citron is a house brand of a very respectable Japanese OEM. However, Swamp Fox, unlike Citron, actually wants to sell scopes. So, yeah. Mr. James Buzz the Clown is here and says it's Slevgun Sunday Part 2. No, Sunday was the Dark Lord of Optics Tuesday Part 1. Get your priorities straight.
It's okay. We do this.
See, he can't even say anything now.
We just do this because I know you have a persona to keep up. I'm going to keep it a secret that you're a softie and you're a very friendly person in real life.
Okay, nobody other than my wife knows I'm a softie, so don't pretend any inside knowledge.
Cheers. You show up in videos, people know you're a softie.
Not that part. There is a reason you're looking at me from like the waist up. You know?
Yeah, at least you're not a cunt bucket.
Definitely not. All right. But anyhow, Mr. James Buzz the Clown, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it.
And he's the reason I wear glasses.
I thought it was your nearsightedness that was the reason.
Actually, I'm not even nearsighted. I have a slight astigmatism.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like -0 in both eyes, but I have a slight astigmatism.
I'm -4.25 on one eye and -4.5 on the other.
Wow, you're blind.
But with the way my eyes work, context corrected well enough that corrected vision is well beyond anything normal. It's one of the reasons I can see all the things in optics that I can.
You're gifted.
Yes.
Ooh, that looks interesting.
Swamp Fox Raider. Another 1X prismatic. There's several of them extremely competent as well. So we'll see. Probably want to look at it. I like it quite a bit, and they have the same reticle as the original full-size Swamp Fox blade head, which I think is a pretty good idea. That's something I plan to look at more carefully. Okay, so we have a question here. Did we convince Slav to try a 10 mil yet? I don't know what that means.
10 millimeter instead of 45 gap. God's given choice of caliber.
What
Do you know a 1911 in 45 gap is such a joy? It's fantastic.
Mr. Slav Guns?
Yes.
Are you thinking?
What?
No,
oh no, actually it was your internet. I was just basically saying how 45 gap into 1911.
Oh.
45 gap is amazing. It's an amazing cartridge. It's fantastic cartridge.
10 millimeter. Okay, got it.
Yep. Very good. But I like 10 millimeter. It solves an issue. It's a good cartridge. Just not as good as 45 gap.
God's caliber 10 millimeter.
No, 45 gap is. It's Gaston's caliber.
Maybe I should mute him.
Yeah, it's okay. I am going to have to start wrapping up a little bit. Go walk my dog.
Yeah, I need to wrap up and go to sleep soon.
We'll do part 3.
I'm just kind of browsing through the pictures here, see if there's anything interesting. I have all the pictures of different Swamp Fox red dots.
Here's a question. Did you want to comment on the plethora of lower priced thermals that we've been seeing?
No,
and
really,
that thermal
no.
occurs. Okay.
So one rifle I really liked that I'm absolutely going to try to do an article on was the PWS's sister company of Lone Wolf UXR, the new semi-auto. So here's a picture. Let's talk about that for a minute. So this is a version that takes an AK mag. So the magazine well is interchangeable. The barrels are interchangeable. The gas system is different. This is
Interesting.
what the barrel with the gas block looks like. It's a piston
Interesting.
type gas system. The same basic gun will be able to swap it between 223, 308, 300 blackout, 8.6 blackout, whatever else they decide to make barrels for. And obviously 7.62 by 39, and they have the magazine well, like in this guy, for an AK mag.
It almost looks like a Beretta APX.
Yeah, it's much. It's an absolutely ground up unique design. I looked at it extremely carefully.
Nice.
Non-reciprocating charging handle, convertible from left to right. I mean, this is the with an AR-15 type magazine. While the stock folds, cheek rest goes up and down, two positions. Length of pull is adjustable. And gas system, like I said, is quite unique.
What's the price point on that?
The upper receiver, I think, is serialized, so the bottom pieces you can all move around. Takes AR-15 grips. Bolt release and all that is ambidextrous. Really, really well thought out gun. I was extremely impressed. So this is something I am going to need to look at more carefully. This is for my friend Scott Parks from Vortex. If he ever watches this, he loves 5.5 pound Magnum rifles. So this is for him. I'm being very tongue in cheek. He's a competition shooter. He loves to shoot 20-pound rifles with mild calibers. So, but the new version of the Havoc from Seekins was scary light. I was quite impressed. As far as firearms goes, other than all the lever guns, I will say that PWS's UXR that I just showed, this new semi-auto,
so
it was one of the more clever things I've seen there.
Global Ordnance had something semi-similar or not.
Yeah, they had it. The Global Ordnance distributes it. They don't make it. I don't remember the name of the company that makes it. Fairly clever. I think UXR is a more original design.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just quickly going to run through some pictures. We should talk about this guy. So I talked about electro-optic integration. This is the Gen 2 Revix. So it's the same 5 to 25 by 50, 4 to 25 by 50 optical system, like in the Nexus Gen 2 and all that, except it has the brains from the original Revix system, nicely done with better controls, customizable turrets, heads-up display, and all that sort of stuff.
So is this basically kind of like a Burris Eliminator competitor?
No, it doesn't have a built-in laser rangefinder. It competes against Steiner IFS.
Okay.
So the big differences between Steiner IFS or Revik, the brains and all that is actually in the scope.
Okay.
All right. With something like the Burris Veracity PH, the brains are in your app.
Yep.
Once you select a particular caliber, it basically just copies the lookup table with all the ballistic data into the scope, and then the scope just looks it up. Right.
So this is almost kind of like a Sierra, like the SIG Sierra BDX, but like the Sierra BDX is only limited to 8. It has built in the applied ballistics light engine, so it only goes out to 800 yards. And then if you want to go beyond that, you either need a Kestrel or the app.
So Burris, I think, goes quite further than that.
Yeah.
But it does not have any decision, there's minimal processing in the scope. Right. It makes several differences aside from the price. It also is a difference between ITAR controlled versus not ITAR controlled. So Burris can go to a lot more places. But the new Revik looks like a nice scope. I'm not convinced I like the price. It's like $3,900. But on the other hand, if you are a serious long-range hunter, yeah, you're paying a couple of grand for that electro-optical integration, but there might not be a better way to faster way to get on target than something like this or the IFS. So,
are you getting one of these?
Yeah, I'm gonna get one and review it. I will compromise on my principles. I don't like to review MOA scopes, but I will make an exception because it's very interesting. And again, the reticle in this guy is very similar conceptually to the one that Burris used in this Veracity PH. I like 2.5 to 12.
Nice.
Except in the high power scope, excellent reticle visibility. I like the single-mindedness of the optimization. They know what market they're going for. They're going for it and doing the best they can.
Rich people.
That's I think it's commendable. Yes, I heard what you said.
Yeah.
So
rich people who are going to put it on their $8,000 Gunworks rifle, and we're going to take their $5,000 Gunworks class.
I am going to put it on a much cheaper rifle than that.
Yeah.
4,000. But okay. I had to do it. I'm sorry. Just for you, when I get it, I'm going to put it on the Mosin Nagant and take a picture just for you.
Yes.
I have.
You should put it on a Savage Axis. You should put it on a Savage Axis.
Right now, I have a Mosin Nagant with a tangent theta on it. Okay.
That's so that is such a turn on.
Okay, I'll do an article on it just for you, so that nobody calls you a softie again. Okay. Here's a question here from Fireprank. Are most glass etched reticles etched chemically or mechanically? None of them really etched mechanically. It's always chemical. It's like a chemical electrical type of thing. There is a chemical compound and then electricity does run electricity through it that does the etch. So. All right, I'm quickly running through the pictures. So Gideon Optics comes up. They were there. I'm going to look at their enclosed red dot site called the Mediator, I think. This guy. Shortly, I'm going to go take a class when I go to Florida in a couple of weeks. If it gets here before, then I'll put it on as an offset site onto the Element 5x30 prismatic and go take a class with that just for shits and giggles. I'm curious. Okay. It looks like a perfectly reasonable red dot.
But it looks heavy as hell. I mean, like, this is kind of like, I'd rather get the Burris Fast Fire, the new Fast Fire with that shield, and you can use it when you need to.
Yeah, I have
rather
that
than
one.
have.
Yeah. It's not that heavy, and once again, this one or the Swampbox version. I mean, it's not the same set I made in a different place, but Swampbox has a Kraken that also looks heavy and all that. They're actually not that heavy. Steiner has MPS. Aimpoint has acro. There are distinct advantages to enclosed red dot sites like this. And in terms of my guns have no problem cycling with them, so I don't mind.
So is it? But you know what? The gun might not have any issue cycling with it, but it's a completely different feel. So like, I mean, before I hurt my wrist, I used to be a USPSA gun gamer, shot everything from locals to nationals, and it's like I'm a snob when it comes to that, and you can definitely tell the difference between something that's
definitely going to be sending you for an education camp to the Big Brown Bear. Sean, if you're still watching, get him a kettlebell. Kettlebell exercises from morning to evening, so that extra 2 ounces on a slide don't hurt his wrist.
No, it's not about the hurting my wrist. It makes the gun cycle whack. Like it's not as flat.
It's shooting. A little bit different, but it's not. To be fair, so I have the Swampbox Kraken on a long slide 10mm.
Yeah,
where it doesn't make jack shit of a difference.
Yeah,
so but
that's a 10mm.
Yeah, the Guts caliber. Yes. Did you get a chance to see the new Meprolite pistol red dots? Yes, I did. That's in my day 1 and 2 overview. I was very, very impressed. They have a couple of different enclosed red dot sights. I have a picture somewhere, but there are a lot of pictures, and looking for it right now would take a while. They're not made in China. They're under $400. They're doing a lot of stuff in Taiwan and Philippines. And I think
wasn't most of the Mepro stuff like Israeli stuff?
It's an Israeli company, but anything under $400 is not going to be made in Israel. They have stuff made in Israel, and my home defense gun, I have a Mepro more Pro that I really like. But for these 2 specific ones that he's talking about, the pistol red dots, they're very good. They also have a couple of open ones that even like a couple of $100 that were pretty nice, but the 2 enclosed ones I was quite impressed with. One for full width slides and one for narrow slides.
Okay.
I think they did a very good job with those. So kudos to Meprolite. So Gideon Optics had a low power variable and a prismatic. AGM had something that looked promising until I looked at it carefully. The electronic annealing thing was really cool. I don't do annealing now, but I'm seriously considering it. Carbon fiber suppressors, that was interesting. Did you see those at range day?
I shot it at range day. It was interesting.
Carbon research. So this is what the cutout looks like.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, so
The
it's a
actual
traditional
baffles are
baffle
metallic
stack.
inside and they're held by the carbon fiber structures.
The guy lied. So the guy told me that it was a truly carbon fiber baffle stack with only the first blast baffle being reinforced with Kevlar. Guy lied.
Okay, here's
Bastard.
the cutout. I don't know. Taken in their booth.
Yeah, there's metal in it.
Yep, as it should be. So this is the Athlon Chronos Tactical for $1,000. I know a guy who designed the reticle. I guarantee that it works. Athlon did something very clever with the mounting plate. Now the spotting scope, the mounting plate starts rotating. You need to put in anti-rotation pins and all that. They just did a plate with 2 threaded screws. Can't go anywhere. I like it. Nice, simple, clever.
Mm-hmm.
They also had this 85 millimeter spotter.
That looks interesting.
Also $1,000, 20 to 60 by 85. What they did, they brought back this dual speed focuser. And on larger spotters, I do prefer this focusing rather than one large helicoid ring.
Okay.
I think this is a good idea. Optically, it looked very nice, best I can tell. This is the 12 power Athlon binocular that has a reticle in it. Again,
Fantastic.
$500.
500? Wow.
Yeah. Hard to say from inside SHOT Show. But I think Athlon is going to make a killing with this. And Athlon is an interesting company. We talked about it on Sunday. I don't think they do particularly good marketing, but they deliver a good product.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes very available, distributed well. I think it kicks ass. Yeah.
Now, are we placing it under the Ares line?
I think it's under the Ares line, yes.
Okay.
Either Ares or Midas, I don't remember.
Okay.
And of course, I tried to take a photo of that. It came out blurry, naturally. I should have one fairly soon, so I'll do a review of it. I did a video with Element guys, but I haven't. I need to edit it and look at it. Element guys had 3 new laser rangefinders. The 5. This guy here. Can you see my mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is the Hyper 3X. Back end is the same as the original. Front end is a little bit smaller. This is the 5 to 30 prismatic I like so much. This is the Gen 2 Nexus. This tiny little thing, that's the weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. I'm going to look at it with Hyper 7. They talk to each other. Small handheld Helix laser rangefinder. Larger Titan laser rangefinder is not in the picture. And 2 sets of binoculars, 8 power, 10 power. So Element is very nicely rounding out their product line, which I like. So, Mr. James Buzz the Clown is leaving us. Good night, New Mexican teddy bear. I'm gonna sue you for damages to my online persona.
Wow.
You know what the funniest thing about my online persona is? It is exactly the same as my real life persona. Probably makes me a little bit unique. Anyhow, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. We'll be wrapping up in a minute. I'm just, like I said, browsing through pictures, making sure I don't miss anything especially interesting. And one of the most interesting things at SHOT Show was this. Check this out. Look at it carefully. What does this look like to you?
It looks like a integrally suppressed barrel. No, wait, it's an FX, so it's an air gun. I know nothing about air guns.
Where's the tank? Where's the air tank?
I'm guessing it's.
You're right. It's an air gun.
It looks like
this
it's
little
that
thing.
magazine.
That's the pressure gauge. No, that's too small.
Okay.
You cannot have this is not an air tank.
Is the air tank built into that rail where it is like where you'd add the weights?
Nope.
Then I have no clue.
See, what you think is a barrel, it's a cylindrical air tank with a hole in the center, and the actual barrel is a thin-sleeved barrel inside.
Wow.
This is the air tank. And this is an MDT chassis, and they have it in the normal hunting stock. You can have a normal grip.
That's awesome.
Folding stock. You can use it off of barricades with normal everything.
Wow.
And it's optimized for slugs, and it's stupid accurate. I don't know how far you can shoot this one, but they have air guns now. You can easily shoot, as far as the rimfire is further. Frank Gallo was
That's
talking
awesome.
about the 600-yard capable air gun.
What?
I
Wow.
want this. I can't afford it, but I want it.
You can't afford this? How much is it?
This one in this configuration is probably $3,000 because the stock is so expensive. But the same air gun in a normal stock from them is like $1,200. So I'll probably
Okay.
have to pick one up. I mean, of course, I want one in the chassis, but I just can't afford it.
Well, you have the chassis.
But
you
this
have
is
the.
unimaginably cool, and I really like air guns.
That's awesome. I mean, that is fantastic. That looks awesome.
Unbelievable. And as far as accuracy goes, there are several high-end brands of air guns that all go against each other. They are clearly of similar accuracy. In terms of overall quality of the triggers and accuracy, I've seen nothing better than FX air guns. I have an FX Dreamline, just unbelievably accurate. Unbelievable.
So I'll say, since you brought up Brimfire, did you look at the Franklin Armory had uppers and guns in 17 WSM?
They've had it for a little while. I've shot it at Range Day.
Yeah, they just recently launched it, like within the last few months.
17
Winchester short.
17 WSM upper from Franklin Armory has been around for several years. I had the conversation with my cousin who still lives in California, who wanted to buy it and use it on the AR-15 because California AR-15 limitations have the word centerfire in them, and rimfire 17
WSM, not 17 Hummer.
Oh, 17 WSM is a rimfire.
Wait, so 17 WSM is a newer cartridge. So traditionally there was 17
okay,
HMR.
Maybe something else.
17 WSM.
There is another rimfire that's bigger than 17 HMR. That's rimfire. Hold on. 17 caliber rimfires. 17 WSM is a rimfire.
Yeah, but it's a new one.
It's not that new. It's been 4 or 5 years.
Well, for the cartridge, but the gun itself basically was like, yep.
I had a discussion about this gun with my cousin in California who wanted to use it to work around California regulations a while back.
Mm-hmm. Or there's something possibly a little bit
different.
So
Q-Ball is talking about the air gun slugs. Yeah, it's pretty amazing what you can do with modern air guns. So it's just unbelievable.
I will have to take a look at air guns.
It is something else. Voodoo had a hunting scope that I don't understand the reason for. Since we talked about lever guns,
Voodoo
this
air
is
guns?
the Stag Arms version.
Voodoo Rimfire? Like the Voodoo Actions people had a hunting scope?
So EOTech has a Voodoo X.
Got it.
Scope for hunting. Voodoo X is what they call it. 2 to 12 second focal plane with a weird reticle for hunting. I don't know what they're thinking, but
the regular Voodoos aren't becoming like household brands, so I guess they had to try something a little bit different.
I guess so. So this is the wood-stocked lever gun from Stag Arms, and the Aero Precision has a version of it that's all tactical. They actually felt pretty good, but they're not going to be available until the end of the year. They got the lever rail and sights and all that from XS sights, which is extremely commendable. I think those are the best lever gun sights available now. I'm a big fan of XS sights, aside from the fact that they're good people. They make very nice stuff. And I've visited them. That was very good. US Optics has a new scope. I think this is a 3 to 18 by 50.
They're still around?
They're still around. This is another imported scope. I hope they do more. Again, they're kind of nice people. I want them to do well. But they just wasn't that much new, just this scope. I'll take a look. What US Optics does really well, they take these Chinese scopes for the imported line. They have a US-made line.
Yeah.
And for the imported line, they QC them extremely well. So they catch all the bad stuff.
Nice.
Which is commendable. I went and looked a little bit Schmidt & Bender. So the most underrated scopes on the market are the Schmidt & Bender Classic, which are these old designs. They make them in Hungary. They're spectacular, and they are $1,200 to $1,500. This is the 3 to 12 by 42. Again, flies under the radar. If you've never seen it, try it. Really, really, really impressive.
Nice.
Just such a nicely optimized designs.
Good night, Northman.
Northman is out. This is the veracity stuff. I think we're almost done with what I wanted to talk about.
Leapers. Did you look at the newest versions of those Leapers?
No, I'm
scope?
tired. I've been looking at it for 3 years. When they're ready, they'll let me know.
Well, one of them is actually ready now, and then the
That's
other
what they
one.
said 3 years ago.
Yeah, they did say that too, and now it's completely different people there too now.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it looks promising, let me know. I'll take a look.
It's all right. Like, I don't think it was like mind blowing.
Okay. So Birch Steiner have new thermals. This thermal clip-on you see in the picture is a Steiner 640 by 480 clip-on with a 35 millimeter lens. Very, very nice image quality for $3,000. That makes it arguably the best bang for the buck clip-on the market now. And to work with it, they introduced the 4 to 16 by 42 scope that you see in this picture with the clip-on. That's very short. So there is a normal length Predator 8 scope they have over there on the other side. And this Predator 4S is basically that the Predator 4S with the clip-on is almost the same length as their normal hunting scope.
Wow.
That was very, very cool. I think they did a good job with it, and the short 4 to 16 actually looked pretty nice. Now it's a second focal plane design, hunting scope, yada, yada, yada. But it is quite nice. Steiner had a new red dot and magnifier that they want obscene money for. I don't get it. In the XS Sights booth, there was a John Wick gun. That may be one of the reasons why lever guns became popular, because in the John Wick movie, he was seen killing lots of people with a very tactical looking lever gun. I'd like one of these. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that does look pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll want a suppressor on it and a cool handguard. And I'm still not going to be John Wick.
You're much better looking. Much smarter, much better looking, much more accomplished.
Normally,
and no one killed your dog.
I don't have a dog, but if anybody ever kills it, John Wick will be hiding in a bunker. I looked at the new 3G cons. They have the enclosed red dot, and they have a new 1 to 10 Credo. They look perfectly nice, but these are very Me Too products. Probably time to go to sleep. Northman is out. Heterodox as humans are so impressionable. Yes. We talked a little bit about the Mark IV. So this is a layout of Mark IVs. They didn't have some of the ones I wanted to look at, but like I said, on balance, they looked like interesting designs, and they are worth exploring in more detail. Okay. So I think we're probably going to be wrapping up.
Yep.
Everybody's yawning, including the people in the comments. So last picture, since somebody asked me about the new colors with the big ass eyepiece before. So here is the new colors eyepiece on the left, and 525 old colors eyepiece on the right. That's the difference. Okay.
That's a huge.
It's an enormous fucking eyepiece, but it's 40% wider field of view.
Wow.
And it's well optimized. Whether it's too much or not remains to be seen, but I will say it looks to be a better scope than what I've seen from colors in the last 10 years. Optically.
3.5 to 20?
3.5 to 28 by 50.
28, wow.
Yeah.
Pricey?
So there's that.
Can us mere mortals afford it?
No, $4,300. You said mere mortals.
Yes. But after
all right,
after much more expensive rifles, it's like, okay, it's like if it does something true.
Look, if you are doing a serious competition, whatever else, it's going to be probably in your range. But for a lot of people, that's excessive. Alrighty. It's been at it for almost 3 hours, at least I have.
Yep.
If there are any questions we haven't yet addressed, you have about 2 minutes while I finish this. And then I'm going to wrap this up and go to sleep. Carlos making scopes for giants Cyclops now. That's actually a pretty good way of thinking about it. I like it.
But Cyclops Joe doesn't review Collis, does he? It's too
No,
much.
no, no. It's Giants, It's too
much.
no. It's Giants Cyclops. Yeah, Cyclops Joe is another guy that I really like. He's a good friend and a good man and a funny guy.
But
but I like him. I don't want to take apart his videos.
Yep.
And it's too easy. Mr. Heterodog says, thanks for the update. You're very welcome. I'm sure there is something I have not covered. I need to decide if I'm going to do part
leave it in
2
the
of this
comments.
shot show wrap up. Put something in the comments. For those of you who don't know Mr. Slav Guns, he has a very allegedly respectable channel on YouTube here. But do visit his channel. We
sometimes I have allegedly good guests. Yeah. Sometimes I have allegedly good guests.
Yeah. Look, we have very complementary channels, right? I do almost exclusive optics, a little bit of guns. He does almost exclusively guns with a little bit of optics. We have a nice overlap, and it's always a nice discussion.
Absolutely.
So, do subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. And Q-Ball has a CT question that I ignored earlier. What special treatment did the original Crimson Trace Series 3 and 5 scopes have? I stocked a few of them. There was no special treatment whatsoever. They were just okay Japanese scopes with weird reticles and occasionally wobbly turrets. But on the inside, they worked just fine. And on the closeout, they were a very good deal.
Yeah.
That's
when they came out, they're overpriced.
Yeah, they were grossly overpriced when they came out. The reticles, I don't know who came up with those reticles, but I don't think that guy ever shot a gun in his life.
Well, the problem is, the problem on the reticles, it's like the different series, they had completely different reticles. Like they weren't even close. So they had, it was the 1, 3, and 5 series, and the reticles on all 3 are completely different. I have a couple
and none of them made sense, to be fair. There was a consistent theme. They didn't make any sense.
Yes.
But they were different, which takes creativity. But once again, on the inside, there were good scopes optically and mechanically.
Yeah.
And if you picked up a couple on the closeout and the reticle works for you, you should not have any issues.
And then basically they get rid of the entire, like, okay, well, we can't sell scopes at the $2,000 price point. So they get rid of all of them. And we're going to focus on cheap Philippinesium first and second focal plane reticle rifle scopes. And they can't sell those either.
Look, originally, when Nikon got out of the rifle scope market, Nikon had this interesting niche. They didn't do any innovation, but they would bring in value and very good distribution.
Yes.
And then Nikon pushed it out and got out of the rifle scope market. And there was space then Crimson Trace started to occupy it. But the basic problem was that while Crimson Trace was trying to figure out what they wanted to be in this life, Athlon stepped in and basically took that niche, and they're better at this than Nikon by a solid margin.
Oh, yeah.
So Athlon, in many ways, took over that niche. And while Crimson Trace and other people were trying to figure out how to do this, Vortex became half of the market altogether, bigger than everybody else put together.
Oh, yeah.
Athlon took over the value niche, and everybody else is kind of trying to figure out where their spot is.
Yep.
Right? So that's basically it. And Crimson Trace didn't figure it out. To my great regret, because I think there's a lot of brand value.
There is, but I mean, that kind of goes back to basically what was happening around that time. You have to look at the Cerberus Group, Freedom Capital, the stuff that Vista was doing, Smith & Wesson was doing, and when they acquired those brands, they never intended to actually develop those brands. Their entire premise was, we're going to buy the brand, and because it's publicly traded right now, it's automatically worth a lot more money, and then the market fell on them. And that's why I look at a company like Gemtech, which was an iconic brand. It was 5 years before Gemtech released one new product. We can actually discuss this like for hours on there. I mean, like, this was my field.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But again, so like Crimson, Smith & Wesson brands, they wanted to compete with what Vista Outdoors and Freedom Capital were doing. So they started overpaying for a lot of these brands with the premise of, okay, if you buy a privately traded company at a multiple of 3 to 4, and we wrap it up into a company that's publicly traded, well, now it's going to be trading at a multiple of 8 to 9. Well, we just more than doubled our money by merely packaging together and making it publicly traded as opposed to privately traded. And their basically premise was, and kind of like what some of the Czech companies are doing right now, trying to buy out these big conglomerates, but then you had the gun market fell apart, stock market fell apart, and then the liberals started thinking like, oh wow, we're not going to be investing our pension dollars into gun companies that murder people and stuff like that. So they literally got caught with their pants down, and that's why Smith & Wesson brands had to divest and split the outdoor segment into American Outdoor Brands, and then the gun company, the Smith & Wesson brands, is now Smith & Wesson and Gemtech. So it was a lot of financial engineering. There's a bunch of issues with it. I mean, there's gross incompetence with that. But no, I mean, they completely overpaid for a lot of those. And you have a brand like Crimson Trace that got completely mismanaged. You have an iconic brand such as Thompson Center, which was legit just shut down. They tried selling it. They couldn't find a buyer for it. They legit just shut that brand down.
I was very upset about that. I have an Encore that I really like.
Yep. So yeah, topic for a different one.
Yeah, that's a long conversation anyway. So there is okay, let's do this last question and then we're gonna shut it for tonight. Mr. COD, what's both of your favorite reticle for long range?
Ooh.
One reticle.
I have one. It's the Burris SCR2 reticle.
Good choice. It's good reticle.
It's clean. It gives you everything that you need. It's just right. And then slowly behind it, I think it's a little bit more busy, but it's the ones in the tracked optics and in the element scopes. But I love the SCR2. It's just a fantastic. Like, I wish I had better scopes for that reticle. I guess now they do, but I first found it in when I played with it in the RT25. I'm like, awesome reticle, a little bit more limited scope, but
yeah, I have the SCR2 in the XTR3i 3.3 to 18.
Yeah,
and I have the SCR2 quarter mil, which is an interesting reticle, in the XTR Pro. And they're both very, very good reticles. Oh, I'm struggling with this a little bit.
I will say the other one that was interesting is the one in the Bushnell Rimfire, the Bushnell Match Pro, which used to be the Rimfire Pro.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was actually,
reticle.
And I think they used that in the whatever happened to those? Like they released the new Japanesium scopes that were like meant for PRS and stuff.
Bushnell is going through reorg right now. A bunch of people got fired. The Bushnell moved to Minnesota.
Again,
not from Minnesota, from Minnesota to wherever. So who the hell knows what's happening there?
Okay, but that was a decent reticle too.
That was okay. Shit. I'll probably say on. So.
And a reticle that you didn't design.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? So I'm trying to. So obviously, my favorite reticle is going to be the one I designed for the way I shoot, right? So I'm gonna forego those. Can it be a reticle I consulted on but didn't design, or it has to be independent from me?
No, absolutely. I would love to hear both. Let's see, what's your favorite reticle?
March's reticle in the 5-42, the two reticle I designed for the way I shoot. So that's going to be my favorite. There are some other reticles I designed here and there. But that's on balance going to be of the ones I designed. That's one that works the best for me, called FMLTR1. Now, if I were redoing it, I'd do a couple of things differently, but all the important stuff would carry over. I always want to do something a little different. And there are a couple coming out that I designed or was heavily involved with. That's going to be further evolution in that team. Should be out toward the end of the year. Of the ones that I didn't design, but had provided some input, and they used some of it, I didn't use the rest. Tangent's Gen 3 XR is actually a very good reticle. Many modern reticles that people really, really like are too thin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have unusually good vision with contacts, but I think too many reticles are too thin because too many people buy into this whole aim small, miss small, which is complete nonsense. So I will say it's going to be on balance probably Gen 3 XR with Schmidt's grid radical GR2ID. Grid radical being very, very close second.
Okay.
I like hold under radical. I'll say the grid is probably the best grid type radical out there. And Gen 3 XR is probably one of the better general purpose tree type designs that I did not design.
Yeah. Do you have a drink still ready?
What now?
Tremor. What do you think of the Tremor 3? You're just not professional.
Ебать копать из боку бантик.
Hey, no one mentioned it in the chat so far, but you know what? There's a bunch of people who probably think of those type of reticles.
What's a nice way of saying this?
Tell us what you really think.
So Horus reticles, I like these, like the Remington of the reticle world. Totally useless and hard to sell to someone. No, actually, unfortunately, they're not hard to sell to someone. We sort of lost that battle. It's a bad idea, but yes, military. It was sold by a snake oil salesman. We all know this whole idea that they're easier to use. It's totally wrong. A bunch of people having problems with it, but because US military uses quite a few of them, all the tactical teams over there copying it. It is a bad idea. It is legitimately bad idea. We don't have time for the detailed discussion we talked about in the past. If there is interest, put it in the comments and we'll do another live stream on reticles only. Absolutely. I can explain what I mean. There are certain fundamental requirements of reticle design that all good reticles have, and we can talk about it and I can explain what it is. There's no secret. I don't hide anything. And the Horus reticles, especially the Tremor 3, which is the worst, but most of them pretty bad. Yeah. There's one exception. There's one that's okay. Horus reticles generally violate all reticle design principles, and reticle design principles are not based on optical ideas pertaining to rifle scopes. They are based on how human vision works. Yeah. Right. That's what we aim with. And when you think of a reticle, you should be thinking more about human eye than about a rifle scope. You basically design it for what works with the human eye and with the way we aim. And then you look at the limitations that the rifle scope introduces and make modifications to adjust for that. But the fundamental idea is to design it for your eye. And Horus reticles are just not that.
Okay. So what about like other, like, so I know like you're a fan of primary arms optics, but what about their reticle? So I mean, it almost seems like they try to attract the tactical Timmy market, and they basically make a Tremor 3 on a budget. Like some of the reticles that they have and some of the scopes are just like, it's like there's so much shit going on in them that it's like too much.
Yeah, so I think ACSS reticles do a reasonable job with low power optics, and with precision optics, the saving grace is that Tremor reticles exist and they work. And I'm friendly with Dimitri, the guy who designed the CSS reticles. He's a good dude and a good shooter and a very successful reticle designer. Probably one of the most successful we live today, as far as the market responses. But I think I'm not a fan of ACSS reticles and high power scopes, at least all the ones that I've seen.
Nice. So I guess they know their market though, like they know what's going to sell and a bunch of features and stuff. I guess like tactical Timmies, they think like the more stuff in the reticle, the better.
Yeah, I don't begrudge them, their success or the right to design reticles in a way that sells. Remember, my angle is very different.
Yep.
But they're not designed. They're designed to show to your friends, not to use. That's basically it.
Very fair point. Okay. Very cool.
Which is not a nice thing to say, but that's what sells, and that's what they should keep making, right? I'm not going to tell them to make something else.
No, you need to do a video on this because I mean, like, and actually, like, how to the ins and outs of reticles and what you should look for.
I think I've done one a while back, but we can definitely do another one.
Or I'm gonna come out, or next time we see each other, we need to do this video like real life with multiple cameras and shit and stuff like that.
Probably.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you drink, but like when you're talking about the radicals, I'm like, it just popped in. I couldn't like not hit that button. And on that note,
this started out as a full bottle, right?
how much is left?
Hey,
it's a good
I didn't
bottle.
drink that much.
No, you're good.
Look, so I drank about $100 worth of whiskey today. That was like $340, something like that.
Nice. All right. On that fun note.
On that fun note, we're going to wrap up. So thank you all for sticking with us for 3 hours. I do appreciate it. Anything else you think I missed, put it in the comments, and we'll come back in a couple of weeks and make sure we give you closure on anything that needs to be addressed. Thank you all, and good night.